Hey listeners, and welcome back to another action-packed episode of the Geek Mosh podcast, episode 5. My name is Jason.
And I'm Anthony.
And we're here just chilling, just talking about nerd shit like we always do. We're a couple of idiots, and we love being idiots.
For yourself, pal.
Well, hey man, come on. I mean, you know, one idiot to another. We laugh at the same bullshit, actually, right?
Well, that's true. That's true. Although you did like Batman v Superman.
I said I didn't super like it. I said there's parts of the movie I like.
You didn't super like Batman v Superman?
I liked it. I didn't super like it.
Because you have a tumor in your brain that's impeding you from using rational thought.
I just drown out the whole Martha bullshit, you know.
I drown out like most of the movie.
There's nothing about that movie at all has any redeeming factor.
Music's cool, and what else? The tone for the Batman stuff is cool, but I don't enjoy him killing anyone. So, like I said, there's a couple things that are like, oh, those are neat, but like 90% of the movie's garbage. Okay,
wow.
Okay, 85% is garbage.
Okay, I'm gonna say first off, I didn't like Lex Luthor. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, it was terrible.
That was stupid. I didn't like how they portrayed Superman. He was too dark, like too. Just,
where he just kind of like broods and like every time. You notice every scene that he had, it was the same music. Dun, 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 dun. Every single time he came on screen and did something, that music starts playing. Okay, anytime he came on scene and there wasn't anything action-packed going on, he like if he's like having a dialogue scene with his mom or with the three that he had with Lois Lane, the same fucking
that little tune, yeah,
song played.
That was from the first movie, though. I mean, that was kind of like all right, you know, this is another movie, but let's like say, hey, we still remember Superman because you know Batman's in the film, and he actually pretty much took the film over if you really think about it.
Yeah, I guess because Superman sucks.
The thing though I really liked about it though was the fact that it kind of like got really deep cuts with Batman with the whole like Robin suit. That's like a big callback to Death of Robin, Jason Todd, Joker.
Death in the Family or whatever.
Death in the Family, yeah. There's like Death of the Family and Death in the Family.
Death of the Family sucked. That was the New 52 one, right?
Yeah, with the Joker with the peely off face.
He's just monologuing about crazy crap for no reason, and then he doesn't kill anyone and everything's fine.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that was kind of bad. So, what we're actually here to talk about today is the Dark Knight trilogy. We're going to talk about when Batman movies were good and when Christopher Nolan was still a good director. So, let's start with Batman Begins. Jason?
Actually, I just watched that movie last night for the first time in years. When Dark Knight Rises came out on Blu-ray, I bought the triple pack set.
Yeah,
so it was like this box set that opens up and it has all 3 films in it on Blu-ray, and it had like you know, like a booklet. Like it was like really cool because you know it's good for any kind of Batman fan. So I grabbed it up. It was on sale and shit. I was like, oh, bargain. So I watched it again last night, and it still holds up to me. I don't know. When I first saw Batman Begins, I thought it was a prequel to the 1989 Tim Burton film.
That's what I thought too, especially how it ends with the Joker card.
Exactly. I thought like, okay, this is like a
really badass prequel,
you know, it's
to a cheesy fucking set of movies.
Yeah, it was just like they showed the whole thing with him, his parents getting killed and shit, and you know, just the dialogue in that film was amazing. Like even the first opening shot, you know, with pretty much just him like running around and then him falling in the cave.
Yeah. And
then like finders keepers with the whole arrow bullshit. But no, everything about that film, I mean, there was nothing bad about it. I mean, the Scarecrow, Cillian Murphy, I think, played Scarecrow. Yeah, that was him. Not a really big, intimidating villain. You know, you had Liam Neeson playing Ra's al Ghul. People like to call it Ra's al Ghul. I don't even know what the proper wording of it is.
They say both in the animated series. I know they'll call him Ra's, and then a couple times he's been called Ra's, and I think it's just whatever actor's talking.
Yeah, I usually call him Ra's. So, or sometimes Ra's. I fucking don't know. Ra's.
I first heard of him when I saw Batman Begins, and so I'm always gonna call him Ra's. I don't think I've ever called him Ra's.
So that was your first introduction to him?
Yeah, that was my first introduction to like. It wasn't my first introduction to Batman, but it was my first introduction to villains other than Joker, Riddler, Two-Face, and Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy. Because I grew up I was born in '93, so I grew up when the Tim Burton / Joel Schumacher movies were like big.
Oh, like Batman Forever and Batman.
Yeah, and then Batman and Robin, the big toy commercial. So like those were the Batman movies that I know. And if my memory serves, that movie Batman and Robin came out when I was like 5 or 6. And so yeah, that's all I had to go on. And then Batman Begins came out when I think I was I just turned 12.
That movie came out in 2005.
Yeah, I just turned 12 at that point, and that was when I was first exposed to like dark Batman and or rather a more darker tone of Batman, and of course Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow and guys like that.
Yeah, it was a very like serious film. It was pretty much like, hey, like less, fantasy. Like I said before in one of the episodes we did, like it's more like if Batman was real, like if you took a guy in a Batman outfit and put him in this real world, how things would react and how things would just kind of take place.
Yeah,
like, you had like gangsters. You really didn't have like cookie cutter villains like Mr. Freeze or something like that. I mean, you had what was the mob boss's name in that movie? Falcone.
Yeah,
you had him, and then you had Ra's al Ghul, which was kind of a cool introduction to the whole League of Shadows with Bruce like training with them, not really knowing what
they're
their
the
true
League of
purpose
Assassins
was.
in the comic, right?
Yeah, did I say League of Shadows?
No, that's what it is in the movie, but they're League of Assassins in the comic, right?
Yeah, that scene with him training, yeah, that was pretty much because the guy who we thought was Ra's al Ghul,
The red herring.
Yeah, he thought he was him, but then he realized, oh yeah, it was Liam Neeson later in the film. Even again, they had like the red herring, a second one, like at the party. Remember Bruce Wayne had that party?
But I mean, you knew that wasn't him though. That was pretty obvious. But the first one was more of a red herring because like you were convinced that Liam Neeson's just a guy, and Ra's is just some dark, sinister dude who sits in a chair and intimidates you.
Yeah, he seemed a
but
little...
isn't Ra's al Ghul in the comics white or whatever? He's like a white guy, more European looking.
He's like, I mean, he's
every
white.
comic rendition
I don't know
I've
his
seen,
origin.
He doesn't look Asian or Oriental.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know his origin as far as like his nationality. I mean, he's a white guy, but pretty much he's really old.
Yeah, he's like 600 years old or something.
Yeah, so see in the movie, they didn't really do that because that's really kind of too far fetched in the real world. So they just made him a regular guy. They never fully explain how old he is in the film, but obviously in the cartoons and the comic books, he's got a daughter, Talia al Ghul, and she was in Dark Knight Rises. That was Talia.
That was Talia, yeah.
So he does have the daughter. They fit that in. But, I think it was just they just made him a regular guy. Like he had no special powers, but he was just...
Well, yeah, they took the concept of immortality and it was more of a metaphor versus literal. Like in Dark Knight Rises, Bruce has that vision and he's like, I told you I was immortal. He's like, no, I killed you. You're dead. And then he's like, there are many forms of immortality. And it was more like his legacy was immortal. But I didn't like that concept being used in The Dark Knight Rises, and we'll get to that later. But the Batman Begins was overall a more realistic take on Batman, and it was executed incredibly well. The tone was amazing. Christopher Nolan's former cinematographer who directed Transcendence, whose name escapes me. But yeah, I thought him and Christopher Nolan worked great together. That guy also filmed, he also was cinematographer for Inception, and that movie looked amazing. The music was great. You gotta love Hans Zimmer. The acting was fine. Nothing special in the first movie. Like everyone just did their job as an actor. No, but Batman Begins to me is a perfect. It's almost a perfect movie. The only thing that you can nitpick is the microwave machine. It's like, oh, it vaporizes water. It's like that would vaporize people. Because if it's vaporizing water, we're made out of water, 75% of water.
Yeah,
so people would explode. Everything moist would explode. But this was like, I guess, targeting more the compound. Maybe that's a thing. Oh, we can tune it to target the fear gas. Yeah, that was the only thing in the movie that I didn't like because I thought that, well, once I saw the movie millions and millions of times and actually started nitpicking it, I'm like, yeah, that is a bit of a plot hole, but it's whatever. It doesn't ruin the movie in any way.
I do like Gary Oldman's Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah,
I really did like him. And the only thing also,
he doesn't look like someone who sleeps in the janitor's closet.
Did
you notice
but
in the old movies he was silly, like in the '89 to like to the Schumacher?
Yeah, he was
like,
kind of.
He was
really
very
stupid.
silly, and like I remember this one scene. I think it's in Batman Forever, where like Gordon like looks like he just got out of bed. He has like a robe on and like a little hat, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this?
Oh my god, I think I remember that.
Those movies were so silly, but they were great. I can't bash the old movies because they're a different type of movie. They're not like, it wasn't someone trying to make a dark film and then it ended up being like schlock. Like those are just fun, silly.
Those
movies.
are more fantasy films too.
But these are more grounded in reality, which is which why I understand they didn't feature the Christopher Nolan Batman in the new cinematic DC universe.
Did you ever? When's the last time you watched Batman Begins?
Oh, I don't know, like a few months ago. Every like few months, more like every like 6 months, I watch.
You have a big like Dark Knight party.
Yeah, not a party. I wish, but no, like I just have like a little like I'll watch like the 3 movies throughout the week.
Yeah, I should just have a party and people come over dressed like in capes and cowls and all Joker makeup.
But like, please wear your cheapest Batman you could find. Like get like a really shitty plastic one from like Party City and like a stupid.
And everyone has to talk like this the entire time.
Everyone has to develop throat cancer.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. But I had noticed watching it last night that the action scenes are shitty. Like the edit cuts are really bad. Like when stuff's happening, like it's like cut. It's not one fluid motion. Like you don't see what's really happening. It just cuts, and it's very jumbled and hard to kind of focus on. Did you ever catch that?
So you're saying it's more shaky cam?
Exactly. There's a scene where remember at the docks when he first makes his appearance. He goes, "Where are you?" Right here.
And that scene where he's like taking on those like 6 or 7
If you
dudes.
see that scene, I don't know if they were doing that purposely so you can't really see him, but the whole thing was you watch the entire scene, it's horribly edited. It's horrible. And plus the fact that they do it again when he's fighting the League later in the movie. I don't know what was going on. I mean, that was the only film out of the 3 that kind of did that. The other 2 didn't have that, so maybe he kind of caught it.
Well, I think that scene was supposed to be kind of like, honestly, that kind of is like reminds me of like a horror scene because the music's like like these jump scares and it's like, where are you here, and it's like it's like holy shit, there's like all these jumps and cuts, and like I thought they were trying to make him seem more kind of like a horror villain, like a ghost. He was supposed to seem supernatural in that scene because the rest of the movie it's not like that at all. But I
heard he can fly.
Yeah, I think that scene was more edited to make it look like he was supernatural and it was like scary.
Yeah.
And then obviously at the end of the scene, it was just like, I'm Batman. It's more just kind of like, okay, he's Batman. He's not Man-Bat or a ghost or nothing. He's the Batman. And so, because like I said, the rest of the movie is not like that. I always thought he fought really weird in that suit, but I guess that's why they gave him.
It was a really big, bulky suit.
Yeah, and he couldn't turn his head.
Yeah, that's what he complained about.
Yeah.
But the new suit kind of looked a little bit more sleek, but more skinnier. Like he had less armor on himself. And
what was it? They said they got their inspiration from like motorcycle gear.
Yeah. I mean, I think the gear that he had originally was meant for military use, but they didn't fund it because it was too expensive. He's like, I want to use it. Use it for what? Spelunking.
Expect to run into much gunfire in these caves? Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what was really badass? I love watching this scene. Is the scene where he shoots the poison gas at Crane, Scarecrow, and then he's freaking out.
Medicine doctor.
And his face, like in that whole scene, is all dark and horrific.
Like a fucking demon. Yeah, I remember seeing that in the theater. I was like, that's fucking creepy.
Like his
Batman.
his blood's just pouring out of his mouth and
black goo.
Ra's al Ghul is dead. Like I just thought it was so awesome looking. Like if he looked like that in the entire film with that voice, that would be so fucking scary.
Like a Batman horror movie. Well, like getting back to Scarecrow, I thought Scarecrow was executed well. Like the scenes where he was gassing people, kind of like it didn't scare me, but I was like, ooh, that's creepy, that's freaky. Like when he gasses Falcone in the cell, and he's just like Falcone's screaming, and they're using all these special effects. I'm like, that's fucking creepy. Holy shit! I really liked that. I don't really like how they turn him into a joke the rest of the series, because Scarecrow to me is a rather he can be a scary villain when he's written well and executed well. And I mean, in what's that game? Batman Arkham Knight. He's like the main villain.
Yeah.
And I thought he was great. I didn't think he was cheesy. Or in Arkham Asylum, where you're running through obstacle courses. That was fucking creepy.
No, yeah, it was.
But I didn't like how it's like he gets tased in the face and then he kind of. I mean, that was funny in the movie. But then, like, they keep showing him in Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises.
When he was on the
horse?
horse?
It's just like a joke. Oh, yeah, when he gets tased and he's on that horse. Like, that was funny. That was a funny scene, but they kind of turned him into a joke the rest of the franchise, and that kind of made me sad. I was like, aw.
Yeah, you're talking about those fear gas scenes. I do remember the one we first shot the fear gas at Batman, and then you see these scenes where, like, bats are flying out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And then he does it to Rachel, and his face is full of maggots and stuff.
Those scenes were fucking great. I thought
they look
creepy.
badass. He's like, "Would you like to see my mask?"
I hope they bring that character. Obviously, they won't bring back that actor, but I hope they bring that character back in the new DC universe. And if they do, it'll probably suck. But I mean, I hope they do, because I think he's a cool villain, and I'm really.
He's got a lot of potential to him.
I have Joker fatigue. I'm over it. It's like, yeah, Joker's cool. All right, let's.
Well, they just use Joker so much. It's like he's like fucking dope as shit. But the thing is that they have a whole list of other villains that they can go through. Why just Joker? Like, why don't you go?
Because he sells, and
why don't you go to some of the underground ones? Why don't you do like Black Mask? You know, I mean, that's a badass villain.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, Joker sells well because of Heath Ledger, and we'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, that's pretty much why.
What did you think of what was it? Katie Holmes
as Rachel in the first?
Yeah,
movie?
Just in that first film.
I thought she was fine. I thought she was a little prettier than Maggie Gyllenhaal. Maggie Gyllenhaal looks like an old lady. But I mean, I honestly, when I saw Dark Knight, I didn't even notice that they switched actresses. I'm just like, oh, a brown-haired white lady, because I didn't know who Katie Holmes was. I know she was like big for a while. I never really knew who she was. I've only seen her in Batman Begins. I haven't seen any other movies with her.
She was in a weird she was in weird not underground films, but like, you know, those movies like during like the early 90s or mid 90s or even 2000s, those teen horror films. Like, you know, you had Scream, and then you had like, you know, The Faculty. Remember that movie?
Nope. I remember Scream, but I don't remember Faculty.
There was a movie that she was in called Disturbing Behavior. It was about a town of kids that kind of get mind warped, and they are like made to like follow rules more clearly than they usually do, because they were like outcasts and like, you know, just juveniles.
Yeah.
But she's been in a couple films, and then obviously she was like married to Tom Cruise for a while, so that was a fucking roller coaster of
jumping
a
up and
fucking
down
relationship.
In Oprah's
yeah.
chair.
I love this one so much. I love her.
Fucking nuts.
I liked the whole tumbler.
Yeah, the Batmobile, the tumbler was fucking wonderful. It's a tank.
Yeah, exactly.
He's driving around in a black tank. Yeah, that was
when he was going on top of the rooftops.
Yeah.
And they were trying to catch him.
And what I liked about that scene was it paid homage to like cheesier Batman, where like the Batman is flying or driving on rooftops, and then like, oh my god, like what you said, it's like, can he really fly? I hear he can disappear. I'm like, that's great. They're paying homage to the old cheesy movies and the cartoon.
Yeah, because
cool.
The 1989 Batman film, when I heard that line, reminded me of a line in the film where one guy goes, "I heard he can't be killed. I heard he drinks blood."
Yeah, it's cool making Batman seem like a myth still, because they don't really do that anymore. I mean, I guess they're trying to do it in the new movies, but I don't take those movies seriously because they're such garbage.
Yeah. Damn, you fucking hate on those films so much.
I'm sorry, and I look, man, they're not good fucking movies.
They're just
Dark
different.
Knight movies. No. It's not that they're different. It's that like the Dark Knight movies they had heart. They were written well, and the people who were working on them cared. Yes, in the end, the producers still wanted to make money, and there was obviously a lot of issues with The Dark Knight Rises, which might have been because of producer interference. But these movies, the new DC movies, they're fucking cash cow movies. That's it. They don't fucking care about them. They don't care about what the fans think. All they care about is making money. And it's fucking hollow, shallow crap with bad CGI and stupid music. And it's like, you like this, right? You like to watch the action movies. You like the Batmans. Here's a Batman movie. He's fucking blowing up cars.
We got you Batmans. We got you Supermans. We got your boy
We got
Wonders
your
in
Batmans,
underwear.
your Supermans. We got your Jokers. We got your Will Smiths as the dead shots. We got your Harley Quinns. The kids are gonna love it. We're gonna make billions. What is it? They projected Batman v Superman before it came out to make $1 billion. Like, why?
Well, because when you heard about it, you're like, holy shit, Batman and Superman in the same film, like, and they're gonna fight. I mean, I thought it was ridiculous. It seems like that movie came out the same year as Civil War did, and that was another kind of same thing. Like, you know,
those movies felt very similar with a villain that wanted to just see them tear each other apart. Except Zemo had way better motivation than Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor was more like the Joker mixed with like the Riddler, because he looked like Jim Carrey's Riddler
with the hair and everything like that. Yeah, it was really stupid. But yeah, man, I mean, I don't hate on those films, like the newer ones. I find enjoyment. There's parts where like it hits me right in the in the heart, because I'm like, this is exactly how it was. Like, all right, say for example, Gotham, right? You ever watch Gotham?
Yeah, I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
I watched
so we agree
1.
on something, because that show is horseshit, right? So I mean,
I heard Jerome now is just the Joker.
Yeah,
right?
they
He's wearing the
actually
makeup and everything.
What they did was, I mean, they're fucking like. Or so let's say for example, what you know is Batman, what you know is his villains, right? Like how old he is, blah 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 blah. They're making it really different. It's very just, I don't know, like the Riddler and the Penguin were gay for each other for a while. No, seriously, they were like a couple, and that shit makes me go, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
That's probably pandering.
Exactly.
That's just
no,
pandering
they just have
to
to
the
be like,
LGBT.
hey, let's get to the GT crew and.
Honestly, the actor who plays Penguin, I thought he was gay. Maybe he is.
No, he's gay actually in real life.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, perfect. It makes sense, because when I first saw him, I was like, is he gay?
Yeah,
Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's like, is he gay? Because he seems very gay.
the guy that got the playing.
That would have been cool if they just didn't address it, and they just like, if they hint at Penguin being gay, but they don't outright say it, to kind of just make it more mysterious. But
I think the guy that plays the Riddler though is good. I mean, because
he's
acts
good.
Like the Riddler.
I've only watched season 1, and I like the Edward Nygma guy. I think he does an excellent job.
Yeah.
I've seen a few renditions of Riddler. Obviously, the one that I like the most is actually from the Batman Arkham games. I like that one the most, mostly because of the voice. But no, the guy from the show, I think he's excellent.
He's actually starting to wear the outfit. He's starting to wear the derby hat, like a green derby hat now. So he's slightly like growing into the actual persona. I haven't watched the 3rd or 4th season, or I don't know if they're on the 4th one. I think they are. But I kind of stopped midway through the 2nd season because, I was like, this is just, I get it. You guys are trying to make money though, because using the whole Batman thing. It's like, they're doing that.
Why don't they just cut the bullshit and make Batman TV show?
They can't. That's the thing.
Well, they
It's
have
like,
a Flash TV show. And
yeah,
they're
that's the
making
thing. I don't
Flash
understand
movies.
how they do that shit. So basically, you have the Flash show, then you have Arrow, all the WB bullshit, like,
the cancer, yeah.
Supergirl. And when it comes to it, because it's weird, because for a lot of people, they know Grant Gustin as the Flash. And then we're like, okay, we're going to make a movie with the Flash in it, but Ezra Miller's going to play him. So it's a completely different actor, because we're trying to separate our DC universe from our cinematic TV universe. And I mean, I get it, because a lot of, if you think about it, a lot of TV shows don't really make it onto the big screen. Some do. Like, they'll get translated well. But, I mean, if you really think about it, it just feels more like a WB show. It feels more like something like, you would watch right after fucking
Supernatural season
something
20.
like that. Yeah. So, I mean, I have no problem with like recasting and stuff. But as far as Batman, I just don't think he can pull it off, because it's like, yeah, we're going to get another Batman. Right now, we already have Ben Affleck as Batman. So, okay, we have him. And everyone pretty much says this is the best Batman. I don't think he is, but I think the dark persona of him kind of almost goes with Christian Bale's a little bit.
I liked Christian Bale's Bruce Wayne a lot. I obviously liked the way his Batman looked and his methods, but obviously the voice is, like, it's like everyone makes fun of it, and it is stupid.
Like he's gargling on nails or something.
I do like Ben Affleck's voice changer thing. Like, I thought it was silly at first, but I was like, that's actually pretty neat, because he's not trying to put on a dumb voice. It's just a machine, and it works. That's fine.
Yeah, if you take like Val Kilmer and George Clooney, I think it was just a
George
regular
Clooney was
voice.
just George Clooney in a
It was
bat
like,
suit.
"Hi, Freeze, I'm Batman." It was just like, because it was
The
corny.
Batman credit card.
It was
I'm never
corny. It
gonna
was supposed to
forget
pay homage to the '60s TV show, so you feel like you're watching an updated version of it. You know. But I think, I mean, he's got the build. He's fucking buff as shit.
Well, yeah, Ben Affleck's in great shape, and obviously Henry Cavill looks like the perfect Superman. He's fucking
But
ripped.
the acting is not
He's
there.
good looking. Oh, it's just because he's got a bad director. You know, I've always said that I think that most actors are only as good as their director. And I'll give you an example. So, have you seen the movie The Happening?
With Mark Wahlberg.
With Mark Wahlberg.
What? No.
Yeah, he's terrible in that movie. He's awful. But then you watch him in something like The Departed. He was kind of okay in The Fighter. He was a little boring in The Fighter. You watch him in like the Ted movies. Like you just watch him in movies that aren't that, and his acting's decent. Or in this case, in the case of Boogie Nights, which is an old P.T. Anderson movie, he's great in that.
Oh, he was good in that one.
And in Departed, he's fucking wonderful. He's great. And so I think, not to talk about whether he's a good actor or not, but like it's like watching that movie, watching The Happening, I'm like, he is terrible in this, and like a lot of these people are like really bad.
The movie was horrible. It was boring.
Yeah,
The concept
it's
is
boring,
stupid,
and
yeah.
the acting's terrible, and it's silly, and yeah. And so I like, with that in mind, I think that Henry Cavill, if he was actually directed better, I think that he would be pretty decent. But you know, the DC Universe is doing this whole like, or they were trying at the time to make it dark, and they were trying to follow Christopher Nolan's, you know, tone of The Dark Knight, except it was too much. It was like a dark tone with really silly shit going on, and it was too broody to the point where Superman didn't have any character. He was just a guy, a super person with no character, and he was just a shell. But getting back to the Dark Knight movies real quick, is that like these movies, like I said, they have heart. They have a good cast of actors who can actually act.
Yeah, I mean, I liked. God, why can't I think of his name? Alfred. Michael Caine.
Yeah, Michael Caine he's kind of the same guy in like every single movie. He talks the same with his original Cockney accent and blah blah blah. But like, yeah, no, he was good. It's like he took what he can do. He took his Michael Caine thing with a little bit of a Batman with Alfred twist, and he went with it. Same Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman's just Morgan Freeman in the movie. But it's like you took actors in the case of Morgan Freeman and Michael Caine, you took two actors who are good at what they do and how they sound, and you let him do it. It would be weird if they tried to make, like, for instance, like Morgan Freeman, if they tried to make him like Alfred with a British accent. I don't care if Alfred's black, but it's like if they took Morgan Freeman and made him British, it would probably sound bad, because it's like, that's not Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman's not known for being like, hello, I'm Morgan Freeman and I talk very luscious. It would have just, you know, he's known for his American, you know, sultry, beautiful voice, and
he plays a good Lucius Fox though. I mean,
I
just because
I don't really know the character, but yeah.
No, the Lucius Fox in the comic books, he kind of matches it. If you think of like Lucius Fox, you look at Morgan Freeman, you're like, that's a perfect fit.
Yeah.
You know, and the whole scene at the end of the actually Batman Begins, with the whole train scene at the end, and him confronting Ra's al Ghul, and
yeah, that was a fun action scene. Like I said, you know, the movie gets a little cheesy. It does, but it doesn't, not cheesy to the point where like, wow, I just watched a dark fucking Batman origin story, and now I'm watching schlock. I don't think it gets schlocky. Some people might disagree with me, but I think that for the most part, the tone is pretty consistent.
Yeah, I mean, good tone. You definitely got that right, man. I mean, it's a good tone, and like you said, I can watch Batman Begins and the entire trilogy like once a year. I mean, it's one of those films that it really hits me, like, because, you know, I've been a Batman fan since I was like 6, and I've seen all the films, and when I saw that, I was like, this is really intensely like real, because, you know, it kind of pushes you back to like Batman Year One, which is a comic book one-shot series that was
I
like
own it.
4
I still need to read it.
Yeah, that's basically,
That's
if
the
you
Frank Miller
read
one,
that,
right?
that's like Batman Begins.
Yeah, that's
Have
Frank
him-
Miller, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's Frank Miller. It's he pretty much discovers the persona of like how he wants to be portrayed, as like, you know, fear in the hearts of men and shit, and then he decides, I'm gonna dress like a bat, and then you know, he figures out how to use the gadgets, and he was still like sloppy at the very beginning, like he didn't know what the hell he was doing. Like he was just running off of rooftops.
And that's another thing I liked about this movie is that like he starts out wearing armor and like a ski mask, and then he's like, he talks to Gordon in that one scene where he puts a stapler behind his head to make it seem like a gun, and then he like tries to jump off that roof.
Yeah.
And then he like fucking falls and hurts himself, and then he goes into Lucius's thing the next day. He's like, hey, do you have any lightweight fabrics? And it's just like he's finding his persona, he's finding his costume. He's like, it was cool to watch him go around not in the full Batman suit yet. He was still kind of like in a prototype, and that's what I think Man of Steel needed.
Well, he had the suit that was given to him on the spaceship. So I mean, if you said like he put a hand-me-down suit of him, I don't know, because
what it should have been. Okay, that was really stupid. I remember when I saw Man of Steel in theaters, people laughed when that scene, when they showed the suit, because it's just like, what? This makes no sense. Like how did his dad's subconscious generate a suit in a ship that's been underground for like 12,000 years,
if you
or
really
20,000
think like
years.
that,
Yeah.
with the cape.
What it should have been is when Jor-El Mormont when Jor-El Mormont put him in that ship to send him to Earth.
Yeah.
It should have been like, I'm gonna give him our family suit. I'm gonna give him the jumpsuits they wear in Krypton with the S. And I'm gonna give this to him so he wears it with pride.
Like those battle armor suits.
Yeah, no, not the battle armor, the weird Under Armour stuff that he wore. It
was like a skin tight.
Yeah, the skin tight. It should have just been like, I'm gonna give him this skin tight suit to wear with pride. That was another thing. He shouldn't have sent him to Earth thinking he'd be a super god. It should have just been more like, we sent him away because the planet was blowing up. We didn't know what would happen, but we expected he'd land on a planet. Or like, we're sending him to this planet called Earth because the levels of
the sun,
oxygen and everything seem healthy, so it seems like he'll be fine. Okay, we're gonna send him there. It shouldn't have been like, I'm gonna send him to a planet where he will be a space god and he will have a super suit waiting for him in a ship that hasn't been touched by anyone in 20,000 years. It should have been, he talks to his dad, right, and with the little fucking machine, and then it's like, it should have been like, go to your ship, or like, wear our suit with pride.
Yeah, just so they said backup suits on the ship.
And then it should have just been, like I said, just like, we're gonna give this as like a family heirloom, so he'll wear it with pride and this and that. And then maybe it should have been Superman's idea to be like, you know what? I'm gonna start saving people, and I'm gonna wear this. I'm gonna wear this as like a costume, as like a symbol of hope, and then like, maybe you see him at first, he's saving people in the suit, and the suit's just black or whatever average color scheme it was on Krypton, and he's saving people in this black suit, and then over time he's like, I want to give it more vibrance. I want to give this more. I want to make it seem less dark and make it seem more colorful. So he adds like the
red to it,
and then he adds the red to it, and then he's like, I'm gonna add a cape. It should have just been like, we're gonna watch him modify his suit into what is the new modern Superman suit.
Yeah,
other than just like, hey, here's a suit waiting on a ship. Here you go. Here's your suit.
Yeah, you look at like, say, Spider-Man, the Spider-Man films, like how at the very beginning, Peter Parker made like a suit out of like fucking hoodies and shit, right? That kind of harkens to like DIY. Like, I don't really have a professional suit yet, so let me kind of just work with it. And then after time, I can start kind of getting ideas.
And that was another thing. Like, the new Spider-Man movie did it great because it's like, yeah, he's a fucking kid who doesn't, he's really smart and he knows how to fuck around with mechanics and stuff, but he doesn't know how to sew. He's not a costumer. He doesn't know how to make this super great suit. That's why I thought it was great that his suit was just like a hoodie with a t-shirt and a badly drawn spider. And then, like, Iron Man, who actually has billions of fucking dollars and all this gadgets, like, hey, I'm going to upgrade your suit. That was fucking perfect. And it made sense in the Dark Knight movies that he had such a powerful suit, upgraded suit, because it's like, yeah, he's a millionaire and he has access to unlimited.
Yeah, he had to order like how many, like 5 shipments of the mask.
Oh, he ordered 12,000 shipments of.
They didn't want to make it conspicuous that I'm getting this one mask, but hey, I'm this actual guy running through the streets of Gotham at night, beating the shit out of fucking thugs, and
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the DIY suit for Batman, because like I said, when I was watching the movie last night, I realized like it was really cool because he took the suit that he got from Applied Sciences, and he was that the name or the R&D or something like that, right?
No, it was Applied Sciences, and then in the second movie was R&D.
So like how he took the suit,
I don't fucking know what the
like he took
called.
the suit home, and then he spray painted it black, and he started kind of making the cape with the fabric shit. And with electrical stuff that he was showing him, like, this is lightweight material or something, and like
Oh yeah, if you run a current through it.
And then how when he was making, I thought it was so badass, and he was actually making the bat signals with like as like ninja stars.
The fucking
yeah,
the batarangs. Yeah.
Why bats, Master Bruce?
Bats frighten me, Alfred. It's time my enemies share my dread.
Yeah, that was a really sick ass line. So I mean, I just
like
like
it's perfect. He throws it, and then you see the bat symbol, and then the next scene is him as Batman, and it was that was a perfect scene. And it was a perfect transition. So
at least at the end, with him meeting on the rooftop with the whole bat signal and all that shit, that was like, all right, now shit's starting to fucking get
it's like, he's becoming Batman. Gotham City's starting to like him. Gordon made the bat signal. It's like,
so yeah, I mean, when he was talking about the Joker at the end, and he flipped the bag, the evidence thing, and showed the card. He's like, here's another guy, blah 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 blah. He's known to have theatrics just like
what is
you.
this, like armed robbery, double homicide, taste for the theatrical like you, leaves a calling card. Yeah, that was great.
So then that introduced us into
it's funny because it's what you said earlier. I thought the movie was a prequel, and I said to myself, okay, maybe they weren't sure if the movie was going to flop or not, and so they said, we'll tell you what. My theory is probably incorrect, but like at the time I thought to myself, oh, okay, maybe they made it as a one-off or a prequel just in case the movie flopped, and that's why it leads into the Joker, because it's like, oh, if this movie doesn't make money, then we're not gonna be able to make a second one, so how about we just kind of indirectly make a prequel.
So you're saying that they didn't have an idea that they were gonna make a trilogy. They just said, let's try this first movie out as a tester.
That's what I thought. Okay. I wasn't sure at the time. Someone told me that, like, oh yeah, they already had a sequel set up. That's why they did the Joker, because they were already gonna make a sequel. I just thought, like I said, it was a prequel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we'll segue over to the Dark Knight.
Yeah,
which was a whole other animal.
Holy shit! So Dark Knight, I first saw that movie.
It fucking sucks.
That movie was garbage. No, I actually saw
Bring back Jack Nicholson, damn it.
I saw that movie midnight screening, packed theater, and I remember they were taking pre-sale tickets, and this was after the fact that Heath Ledger passed away.
Yeah, Heath Ledger died like 6 months before the movie came out, 6-7 months.
Yeah, I remember it was crazy too, because he was doing interviews for it. Like, he was doing other movies.
Yeah, the trailer hadn't even hit yet, and they were like, "Ooh, the Dark Knight, the Dark Knight," and he's like, "What can you tell us?" He's like, "You'll find out, you'll see." And I was like, "Ah!"
Yeah, he said, "I'm so excited about this role. It's one of my favorite roles I've ever done." And a lot of people, I mean, were you one of the guys that was kind of like, Heath Ledger is the fucking Joker?
Well, I at the time, I wasn't much of a movie buff like I am now. So at the time, I only knew him for like The Patriot, A Knight's Tale, and Brokeback Mountain. Yeah. And when I was a kid, homosexuality wasn't as accepted as it is now.
You ever seen Monsters Ball?
No, but I know it. Is that the Macaulay Culkin, Seth Green movie?
No, that's a movie that was with Halle Berry.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Party
Monster. He was
Monster.
a cop, but then his dad was I was gonna say Billy Ray Cyrus. It's what's his name?
Billy Bob Thornton.
Billy Bob Thornton, and where he played the son of Billy Bob Thornton, but he was a cop, and then he
was Heath Ledger in that movie.
Yeah, he was the son.
Yeah, I've only seen.
Yeah.
I've only seen one scene from that movie.
It's not
I think you can guess what scene I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know the one that's been
that amazing scene, the best scene ever shot.
That's not a movie that he's really known for. He was kind of like a side cast character. But anyways, back to
well, the first thing I ever saw him in was Patriot, and I used to love that movie when I was a kid.
Movie's still fucking good.
It's a great movie. It has its flaws historically, obviously, but I think if you just take the historical crap out of it, I think it's a pretty fun. It's a fun movie. But when I heard about it, I was just like, "Oh, you mean the guy who played that gay guy in that movie? Oh, that's weird." And I honestly, when I was younger, I never cared about homosexuality either way. I mean, obviously, when I became a teenager, I was just like, yeah, let them do what they want. It's gays are not bad people. But when I was younger, I was just kind of like, oh, gays or whatever. I don't really give a shit. But I was just like, I'm like, oh, like that guy who was in that gay movie, that's weird. That's all I thought. People, I guess more your generation, were more just kind of like, Heath Ledger, what? You mean the fucking pretty boy that fucking always plays a romantic lead? And
well, the first film
that's fucking weird.
Yeah, the first film I ever saw him in was a movie called 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh yeah, it's a fucking rom-com, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a teenage rom-com, and it was pretty much like he played the bad boy. Julia Stiles.
Julia Stiles.
Yeah, Julia Stiles. Remember who?
Yeah,
Remember her?
yeah.
Yeah, he was the love interest for her. She was such a hard ass, and he tried to like kind of like get her to like him. But that was the first time I ever heard of Heath Ledger. And then, then obviously like you had Monsters Ball and you had Brokeback Mountain, and yeah. So I mean, I was really surprised because I'm like, who's casting these people? But then, all our fucking gripes and all our bitchiness was thrown back in our faces when we saw that fucking film, because I gotta tell you, man.
What is it? Well, they released like the posters and people were like, "Whoa!" And then like the trailers came out. And it was like,
I mean,
whoa.
I gotta say it was like perfect, because that guy literally worked his ass off to try to come up with that character. I remember reading articles about him like staying in a hotel room for like a few months.
Yeah, that is true. He not locked himself, but he left his home wherever he was living, and he's like, I'm gonna go prepare myself in a hotel. And he predominantly spent time by himself. I don't think he went full method. I haven't read seen any interviews or anything where it's like he went full method and he didn't talk to anyone for 3 months and he's a creeper. It's like nothing like that. He didn't fucking Jared Leto people by sending them condoms and dead animals or whatever the fuck he did. He didn't do anything like that, but he spent time in his apartment and or his hotel, and he
heard it was a hotel.
He got his role. He got prepared for his role, and it was perfect. And yeah, apparently he had a book of jokes of what he thought his Joker would find funny. Apparently, I've only heard that from a couple people, and I read like one article, but I don't know how true that is. But no, Heath Ledger, not to fucking suck him off and stroke his dick here, but yeah, he did an excellent job, and he worked really hard, and he prepared a lot for that role, and it obviously shows in the movie. You know where the tongue thing comes from?
Actually, I was gonna bring that up because I think there was like prosthetics around his lip, so something would happen.
They would keep getting loose, and he would lick them to try to stick them back to his face. And
but
then,
it worked.
Over time, he's like, I'm gonna make this a bit. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make this part of my shtick, because apparently, I've talked to psychologists about this, that like licking the lips is doing weird mouth tics like that is a side effect of people who are on like antipsychotics, or people who are off them and who need them and who are having weird withdrawals. It's like a medical thing, and it's like, oh, that's fucking creepy. That's what I thought he was doing. I thought he just did a bunch of research, but it's like, no, it was like he was licking his prosthetics back, and then it just became a bit. It became one of his things, and yeah, no, that was perfect.
Because of the whole fact that when I saw it, I thought like, okay, he's got these really horribly like these big scars on his mouth, and he's fucking just like got something like it's a twisted little nature of him licking his lips. But when I saw him when he first came on the scene, he's like, aha, ooh, and I thought my jokes were bad. That even the beginning scene at the bank, that was a perfect opening scene. Like it just kind of hit you out of nowhere. Like the opening shot is like it pans into like this building, and I think when you see it in IMAX or back then, they used a lot of the city scenes, like the big shots. I don't know if it was like Detroit or something that they shot the film in.
To my knowledge, it was predominantly LA.
Chicago or something. Yeah. They just zoom on this building, and all of a sudden the window breaks, and then you just see these guys with these clown masks, and they're just like, trying to get to the bank across the fucking
that's one
street.
Of the best opening scenes in cinematic history. Yeah, I think that scene sets the tone for pretty much the entire movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it just hits you out of nowhere.
And that opening,
there's no Batman.
That music too is great.
Like, dun, 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 dun,
yeah,
dun,
it's
dun,
like
dun.
kind of like heist music, and obviously we've heard about the that noise, and like it's like an electric violin slowed down, and it's all creepy, and yeah, I mean, okay, like everyone hypes Heath Ledger, so I don't want to get too much into Ledger. We all know it was great. I don't think we need to beat that dead horse.
We can say so many good things about him.
Oh, I just made a joke without realizing it. I don't want to beat that dead horse too much.
I know. I was just like, did you catch that?
I'm an asshole. No, but I think the movie it's also better than Batman Begins until we get to the end, which we'll get to that in a bit.
Okay.
But I think it looks better mostly because it's half shot on IMAX. I don't know why he did that. He should have just shot the whole movie in IMAX, because you notice the opening scene is shot in IMAX, and then the next scene, the black bars on top.
Yeah,
it's shot in whatever aspect ratio.
You'll notice it when you have
and
the
that
Blu-ray
changes
film.
a lot. The aspect ratio in The Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises is constantly changing, and like it's kind of jarring. It's not that distracting, but one minute you're watching like a scene in HD, especially when you have it on Blu-ray. You're watching a scene in HD, and then the next scene it's like, look, grade.
Yeah.
Like there's grade in the film, and it's like, But whatever. That doesn't ruin the movie for me. There's a couple things that don't make sense in the movie. The first thing is do you remember when he cuts that brick out of the wall and he's like, I'm looking for fingerprints?
Yeah, he was looking because of a bullet or something.
Right, and it's like, because the Joker most likely loaded the clip in with his bare hands, which means his fingerprints would be on it.
Really quickly, though, I know that was kind of, you're ready to get into the scene, but the thing was that actually kind of brought the whole detective part out of Batman, because that's another thing he's really widely
he's
known
a detective.
for. So that was kind of, you didn't really show that much in the first film, and then he's like investigating this thing. So anyways, yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, no, that's a good point. I should have brought that up sooner, but yes, he is doing this detective thing, which is cool, and I dig that. However, why was he trying to recreate that shot? Do you remember that scene where he's underground and he has like 4 or 5 bricks set up, and the machine and this automatic gun shoots those bricks? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that scene.
What was the point of that?
I don't know if he was trying to figure out the angle of the shot or the exact bullet, because I think the bullet was it not in the brick originally?
No, it was. To my knowledge, the bullet was in the brick, which is why he cut the brick out in that crime scene.
Right.
And so I was like, it would have just made sense if he grabbed the brick and then it goes straight to, all right, we're going to run it through a machine that's going to reconstruct the bullet and all the fragments.
You're just into Batman,
and then
so
it's
much.
gonna have the thumbprint, and then we're gonna catch the Joker, and his name's gonna end up being like Jack Nicholson, or Jerome, or Heath Ledger, or some shit. But like, that's what I thought was gonna happen when I first saw the movie.
That they were gonna figure out who he was?
Well, no, they were just gonna go straight to, I'm gonna use a machine to reconstruct the bullet fragments in this brick, and then bam, we're gonna get the thumbprint, and then it's gonna cut to the next scene, that the funeral scene where Commissioner Loeb's funeral.
Yeah.
But it's like, the other bricks I didn't quite understand. Maybe I'm missing something. Whoever's listening to this, if you actually know what that scene was all about and why he used multiple bricks, please leave it in the comments.
Or email us at thegeekmoshpit@gmail.com.
Yeah, you can do that too. I forgot we had an email.
Yeah, we do. We set it all up, man.
Yeah, I don't remember things. Like, all I do is record and ramble, and then I forget everything. I also edit, too. But that's not the point. So that was one thing that kind of bothered me, but it doesn't ruin the movie. It just doesn't really make sense. But the second thing, and maybe to some people this ruins the movie for them. It doesn't for me, but it bugs the shit out of me. This scene where it's like, so Harvey Dent just died, right? And it's like, the Joker cannot win. The people can't know that Harvey kidnapped your family.
Yeah.
And blah, blah, blah. And so, make me the villain. I can do those things. And I was like, why don't you just blame everything on the Joker? He's been killing everyone the entire movie. Who's going to believe him when he's like, oh, no, it's not true. I actually made Harvey Dent into Two-Face. Well, like, no one's going to believe him. Just say that it was all him.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
That didn't make sense to me. And I get it. They were like, ooh, wouldn't it be cool if, like, Batman was a villain? But if that was the case, then they should have showed him. There should have been like maybe when Gordon called it in.
Yeah.
Right at the very end of the movie when he's like, meet me at 5050 2nd Street or whatever, where my family died, and it's like, you brought police, and he's like, all they know is that there's a situation. They don't know who or what or why. There should have like like a news station or something should have been there. And camera should have been rolling when you see Batman throw Harvey Dent off of the... he doesn't throw him off, he pushes him off. But when he pushes him off the thing, that would have made more sense. Like, oh my god, this just in, Batman throws Harvey Dent off of a building. That would have made more sense. Because it's just like, oh yeah, that's going to be hard to, I guess... No, Harvey Dent was the villain. No, Batman was saving my family. Maybe it's like... I mean, they still could have been like, oh no, that's what happened. They could have rationalized it, but maybe... they could have used that angle instead to make Batman the villain, instead of just like, there's all these people that Harvey Dent killed. And so, yeah, rather than blaming it on Joker and his goons, let's just blame it on Batman for some reason. But that's the thing.
I mean,
in the next movie,
what you're saying.
In the next movie, they don't even talk about Batman killing all those people. It's just Batman killed Harvey Dent. for no reason.
Yeah, I
For
mean,
no
the only
reason.
reason I thought of maybe was the fact that okay, they already just captured the Joker,
Mm-hmm.
and it went straight from that scene to the Two-Face scene at the abandoned whatever the building. So I know the fact that we already like have him in custody, but maybe how could he be doing these things if he's already like
Well, because he has henchmen.
yeah, I know. I'm just saying that I didn't get it either. I completely agree with you. It was like, why blame this all on me, like as Batman? But like,
You know what I thought that was? It's not, because I looked it up, but I thought that was a reshoot scene. I thought maybe they shot that scene after Heath Ledger died.
I'm not sure how many reshoots they did on that film.
I don't think they did that many. I don't think they probably did like pickup shots, but nothing like, nothing that big. I like I said, I looked it up. I was wrong. It wasn't true. But I thought like maybe like, oh, since Heath Ledger's dead and we can't make him the villain in the next movie, let's try to do a Batman is the villain thing or something. But no, it was a writer's choice. It was just like,
Yeah.
They shot that scene when Heath Ledger was alive. And then at that point, it was just like, let's do a twist. But it didn't make sense. It didn't work. It should have just been like, we'll blame it on the Joker. And then that's it.
Yeah.
And then the movie's over. And then Dark Knight Rises has a different setup.
Like a different plot.
Yeah, different.
I
And so
understand.
that to me kind of like, well, that leads us into our next topic of The Dark Knight Rises. Because, I mean, look, we all know The Dark Knight was great. Like I said, we don't have to keep getting into it. We don't have to keep
I mean, we
repeating
can
it.
hit points, but basically, it's a really
It's shot
we'll
well.
be here talking for hours about that one
Yes.
film, and
It's shot well. It's directed well. Acting's great, obviously. The music's great. It has a lot of the same good qualities as the first movie, but like I guess more, such as a villain who actually like you enjoy, who steals the show. Most movies don't do that. It's very movies that have villains that steal the show end up being iconic movies.
Mhm.
And
I mean,
so
what was your favorite? Like, okay, before we get to Dark Knight Rises, what was your favorite part? I mean, you talked about the things you didn't really quite understand, but even if it's Heath Ledger's Joker in those scenes, do you have like a scene that you're like, oh god, like this scene's perfect? And I think for me, it's the interrogation
I
scene.
was just gonna say that's the best Joker scene. I also like the scene between him and Harvey when he's in the hospital. That's a good scene
Yeah.
too. But no, the best scene is the scene between them in the in the
interrogation room.
room.
Yeah.
It's too bad that Batman had that voice, because it would have been cool if they had like a conversation instead of just like, why are you gonna kill me? Your garbage you steal is for trash or whatever he says.
For money.
For garbage you kill is for money. Like it would have just been like better where it's like, you don't understand, Joker.
Where are
Or like, tell me, Joker, tell me where they are. It's like, and then like, oh, Batman, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but they had the cops on the other side of the glass listening.
Yeah.
So I mean, they probably would have been like, you know what? That sounds like Bruce Wayne. Do you think that sounds like Bruce Wayne?
Hey, is that you? No.
Are you that millionaire playboy? No,
Yeah, well, okay, to get back to Batman Begins real quick. I know we're kind of going backwards. But to get back to that movie, that's one of the things I liked about that movie was that he was kind of dicking around with his voice. And remember that scene where he just saved Rachel and he shot her up with the antidote? After she got gassed? That scene where he's just like talking to her, he's like, I need you to get these to Gordon. Blah, 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 blah. I don't have the luxury of friends. I'm like, I like this. He's kind of doing the like Kevin Conroy on Batman thing.
Yeah.
And like I really dug that. And then obviously like there's scenes later where he's like, we got to do this. I'm whispering this and that. And it wasn't that bad. But then you get over to Dark Knight and it's like
yeah, the voice got more like intense in that film, seriously. And it was just like when I saw it, I was just mentioning earlier, I saw it midnight screening. For some reason, the theater, the audio wasn't that great. It was kind of low, and the theater was packed. I remember I was with my girlfriend at the time, and we're watching it, and we're both looking at each other when Batman was talking. I'm like, what the fuck is he saying? Because all I heard was, I'm like, fuck, man, like I can't hear a word he's saying. And then they turned up the audio later in the film, but it was just like so like low and garbly.
The quality was bad. Yeah.
It was. I mean,
You know what's funny?
What?
Someone made a trailer after Dark Knight Rises. The trailers for that came out, and it's like you can't understand anything anyone's saying. Like you see Gordon in bed, and it's like, and then Bane's like, and then like Catwoman's like, and then the last one is like
God,
where
it's
it's like,
amazing.
this isn't a car, it's just Batman, hockey pads.
Oh my
Like the whole
God.
movie's just
That's
like
on YouTube?
grumbling. Yeah, it's
Okay.
like what
I
is
gotta
it? It's
check that
something
shit
like
out.
you can't understand anyone in the Dark Knight Rises. I forgot what it. I saw it once. like when the trailers came out. I don't remember what it was called exactly, but it's really funny. If I find it, I'll put it in the description.
That's like, if you really think about it, The Dark Knight is one of the most parodied, like, superhero films.
Parodied,
like, parodied. I mean, it's just like so many people make fun of that fucking film because of the voice. That's like one of the main things, and you know,
that's the big downside to the Dark Knight trilogy is that, like, although I really did like the Batman style, I liked his tone, I liked the way he fought, and I loved his suit. His voice kind of takes you out of it because you're watching this cool, serious action film, and then he's like, red, red, red. It's like,
you know what really took me out of it? Okay, I want to get into Dark Knight Rises, but that scene at the end where he's got the Joker hanging upside down. That monologue scene, I laugh every time I hear this. Like, these people just showed you that's full of people really believe in good. It was just like,
I'm so tired.
It just sounded so out of it, like out of place. It's like if it was more like these people just showed you. It's like, you know, that's
kind of like in Batman Begins where he's like, these people just showed you that, or the city showed you that it's full of people ready to believe in good. Yeah, it would have just been better if he led with that, and maybe when he's yelling, he's more like, tell me where they are, and like it's a little more raspy. Like, okay, do you remember? You've seen Watchmen, right?
Of course.
Rorschach's raspy voice.
Yeah, exactly.
His is more like Rorschach's Journal. October 12th, 1985. Like, there's tone to it. There's a voice. It's not just like, Rorschach's Journal, October 12th, throat cancer. Like, it's that, what is it? There's a whole video, I guess, of Jackie Earle Haley talking about his voice and how he came up with it.
I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
Yeah, but okay, that's the one scene where he does that, where it's like, you're locked in here with me. That makes sense because he was yelling. But like, there's a scene in Watchmen where Rorschach is in the room with the psychiatrist, and he says something like, "We don't do this thing because it's permitted. We do it because we have to." And it's like he's still doing his I did a bad impression, but he's still doing his Rorschach voice, and you can also understand what he's saying, and it's not silly. He's not just like, "We don't do this thing." Like it doesn't sound so forceful and so over the top. It sounds like its own thing, and that's something that Christian Bale should have experimented with more, or whoever was in charge of his voice, whoever came up with it. It should have been just more like, hey, let's give it tone. Let's make it sound like a person's voice versus just like someone doing like a bad heavy metal impression.
Well, if you listen to Michael Keaton's voice when he was Batman, that was pretty good because what he did was he took his original voice and just deepened it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, you can not really tell it was him, but still, it wasn't like fucking like completely like, yeah. I know we're doing this a lot in the microphone, but this is one of the funniest voices to do. It's like it's just in us to kind of.
I know we're killing the joke, but it's just like the point. Yeah, the point we're trying to make is that the voice sucks.
Yeah, it takes you out of the film.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie, everything's great, and you know, I think that the segue into The Dark Knight Rises was. I think that movie came out a couple years later. I think 2012.
It came out 4 years later.
4 years later. It came out 2012. It was like,
because in 2010, that's when Inception came out.
Okay, so when I first saw the trailer for Dark Knight Rises, I mean, I was pumped because I saw some photos of Tom Hardy as Bane. It was like a black and white photo of him with his back turned, but he looked ripped as shit. But he had like
I know a photo with the cool lighting, and it's like he's kind of like this.
Yeah, you only see his head turn with the mask, and I was like, holy shit, that looks badass.
That was scary. He looks like a fucking bug, dude. Like with sometimes his eyes when he would stare at you really intense in that weird mask, like he looks like a weird bug. Like the Tom Hardy looked amazing as Bane, and I think
he was a little too small though, man. I mean, if you think about like Bane
in real life,
if you think about Bane. Minus that horrible fucking Batman and Robin film, right?
Brain with the fucking like old wrestler.
Just to think about the fact that, you know, we know Bane is this guy who is this hulking fucking madman, right? Who can bust through walls and shit. And then we get Tom Hardy, which I told you, it brings us more down to earth because it's like you have a guy like that in a real world setting, it would throw everything off. Like a guy who's just all of a sudden turns into fucking Hulk and just like wants to bash everything.
Yeah, no, it's good that they didn't do the Venom thing because it would have kind of taken you out of the movie a little bit. I mean, it would have been cool if it's like he takes a steroid that makes him go rage mode and he will just start rampaging, but he doesn't get like his arms don't get 3 times the size or something.
Yeah,
it would have just made more sense if it's like we're gonna give him like a crazy drug, like a berserker drug, and it's like that's his thing. He is really strong and he's really big, and when he takes this drug. And it's like his last resort. Maybe he like normally he fights normal and he uses all of his tactics and his skill, but then when he's running, when I guess he's running out of options, or if he's losing a fight, then he's like, I'm gonna take this thing. I will have my destruction rate will be bigger, but I have more of a chance of fucking up because I'm not in control, and I'm a little more vulnerable because I'm not as defensive. I'm more offensive. So it would have been cool. It's like he takes the venom as a last resort, and it's a venom that just makes him go full berserk mode. It doesn't make him stronger necessarily. It's just like a huge adrenaline spike.
I mean, if you think about the films, like every film from that trilogy, the villain had a different kind of motive. Like you had, Ra's al Ghul, Ra's al Ghul, who was just more of like a crafty, very smart guy who really kind of just, he trained Bruce, and then he actually turned out to be the bad guy at the end. Then you had the Joker, who was this psychological fucking nut job who got to Bruce's Batman's brain. And then you had Bane, who was like bronze-sized to him. Like, he wasn't like smart, but he was just like this intimidating guy. Like, this guy can kick Batman's ass.
Well, each movie had a theme.
That's what,
movie,
I'm saying,
yeah. The first movie had, and Christopher Nolan talked about this in an interview. The first movie's theme was fear. The second movie's was chaos, and the third movie's was pain.
Yeah, that
each
makes
movie
a lot
had
of
a
sense.
theme. Yeah, and that makes sense because I remember watching The Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, and obviously if you've seen the movie, you understand that there's a lot of references to pain and overcoming it, and like I mean, that scene where you're watching him and Bane fight, that was the best scene of the movie in my opinion. The first scene where they meet
Where there's
underground,
no music.
yeah, that's the best scene of the movie in my opinion. And mostly because of the way it's shot. There's a lot of long takes of them fighting instead of shaky cam, like you said from the first movie. And yeah, because once again, that scene was choreographed really well. But I really like that scene, yeah, because of those reasons. But when I'm watching Batman and Bane fight, like every time Batman gets punched, I'm just like, that looks like it really fucking hurt. And then he gets his back broken, and then there's a scene later where it's like, we have to fix your back, and then the guy like fucking smacks him in the back, and he's like, like you can feel his pain.
Yeah.
But no, so first, okay, I will get into what I liked about it first. I liked the way Bane looked. Obviously, I liked the way it was shot. Like I said, the way it was shot and the music for all three of these movies is great. So I don't need to keep talking about how much I like that. I kind of liked watching Batman get defeated.
Yeah, no,
obviously we don't really see that in the first couple films.
We need to see him kind of get tore down.
Yeah, we need to see him physically get his ass beat. That's obviously what the comic's all about.
This probably brings up the theme of pain too.
Yeah, and I liked. I guess the acting was fine. Can't say, like it. The movie didn't have a villain that stole the show. I thought Tom Hardy was silly. Like, oh yes, you think darkness is your ally? You merely like. It's just his voice was silly. And it was mostly because of his inflections. It was like, oh, you blah, blah, blah. Like, I remember one time I was, like, really stoned, and I was just, like, hanging with friends, and I was like, oh, so you think you can dance, Batman?
Oh, God.
But it's, like, the point I'm trying to make is that
the voice is hilarious.
Yeah, the voice was just kind of a little silly, and he sounded more just kind of like a joke.
Yeah, I didn't really get it because, Bane in the comic books, he's, like, God, what is his...
He's like South American.
Yeah, so he's kind of got like an accent.
So he kind of sounds more Hispanic, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
and he just talks normal. Like he kind of talks like, okay, I'm not gonna try to do a Hispanic accent, but it's like
I will break you, Batman.
He kind of sounds like this.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, Batman, I'm going to break the bat. Where it's like it just sounds like a guy with a Hispanic accent, sounding scary. That's all it sounds like.
Yeah, whereas this one it sounds like Sean Connery.
It was like a weird Sean Connery like European accent. Even though the jail that he was born in is like in the Middle East, and it's like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is this voice? I mean, it was interesting because it's like, ooh, like maybe the prisons in Europe instead of South America, but it's like no, it's in like the Middle East, which makes more sense when you actually think about it. It makes more sense that it's in the Middle East, but I guess it would have been offensive if he tried to do like a Middle Eastern accent.
Did you know there was an IMAX screening of a movie? I don't know which movie it was. This was before The Dark Knight Rises came out. And you know how when we saw Star Wars, they
had the Dunkirk screening?
Yeah, the Dunkirk screening.
Are you talking about when they showed the Dark Knight Rises screening?
They had a Dark Knight Rises screening of the very first.
That's the first. I actually saw that. I saw that online long before the movie came out. Yeah, my friend's like, dude, oh my god, the first scene leaked. Holy shit. And so I watched it. and I was just like, oh.
Yeah, that scene, they played it as a tester, and basically they changed Bane's voice because originally in that scene his voice was really low. It was like
I remember he was kind of more like
it sounded a little darker.
Why would
too.
you shoot a man before throwing him out of a plane? And then in the movie it's like, oh, but why would you shoot a man before throwing? Yeah, it's. I do remember that actually.
Yeah, they changed it because people complain like we can't really hear what this guy is saying.
Well, most of that was ADR, you know.
Yeah, I know. There's people were saying they needed to turn it up, and I get what you're saying. So yeah, the voice was silly.
Well, I mean, yeah, turn the voice up, but don't make it sound like a goofball. But whatever. That's the least bad thing about this movie.
I got some like.
Go ahead.
Shitty.
Go ahead. Yeah.
The fact that there was this huge gap between the second film and the third film, and the fact that right at the beginning of the movie, it was like that. Besides the Bane scene, it was that kind of that. I don't know if it was a fundraiser at Bruce, like Wayne Manor. It was
it was a fundraiser for something. I don't remember what it was.
But they were like saying they were hearkening back to.
I think it was like Harvey Dent. It was Harvey Dent Day or something. Yeah.
They were like, "Hey, this guy actually saved our city." Blah 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 blah.
Thanks to the Dent Act. Criminals who participate in organized crime don't get like a hearing, like their rights kind of get waived to a degree. Thanks to the Dent Act, blah, blah, blah.
So how at the end of Dark Knight, how Batman fell and kind of injured his leg, but even after 8 years his leg was still fucked up. He was walking on a cane.
Yeah, he had like no cartilage in it.
No.
He goes to the doctor. It's like, you have no cartilage in your knee or this part of your body. Most of your body is scar tissue. You're really fucked up. And if you think about it, he was only Batman for like maybe a year and a half.
Possibly. I don't know.
Because like the time jumps aren't like they are in real life. Like Batman Begins and Dark Knight are only like maybe. Like he's like they said
Could be like a year.
Since the year and a half that Batman came to light. They say that in like the second movie. Like since Batman's been around for like a year and a half. There wasn't that big of a time jump. Otherwise it's like they just let Joker fuck around for 4 years before they actually did something about it. Yeah, so it was really weird that it was 8 years later, and well, this movie's also trying to copy The Dark Knight Returns to a degree.
Yeah, I get it. I'm just saying the whole leg injury, first off,
Yeah.
was just ridiculous because you're telling me between
I
those
didn't
8
even
years,
know he hurt his leg
Yeah, he hurt his leg in the 8 years that he was pretty much sad
in
Batman.
hiatus. Yeah.
He was just walking on a fucking cane. He was growing a beard. He wasn't like, he stopped being Batman because he wanted people to kind of think like, I'm the villain. I can't do anything now. I can't go out and like, fight crime because people are gonna like hunt me down. And a lot of people complained about this, and I can see why Christopher Nolan didn't do this. Was the fact that nowhere in this film was the Joker ever referenced. Was he ever mentioned that this one guy 8 years ago, because he was pretty fucking, like, he was causing so much chaos in the fucking city that we don't mention him at all. And there was talks of a scene that was supposed to be shot. That scene where all the villains, all the people get broken up because they found out that Dent actually was the one that killed those guys.
Yeah.
So everyone that was in Blackgate prison, they let them all out.
Yeah.
Right? So there was a scene where Bane was walking around Blackgate, and you see a cell, and the Joker's in that cell, but you don't see the front of his face. Obviously Heath Ledger passed away. You see the back of his head, and you see Bane come to the front to look at him through like the little like glass part. And he could have let him out, but he didn't. He just kind of waved it off like, I'm not letting you out, you fucking crazy. So apparently that was supposed to be in the film, but Christopher Nolan's like, I don't want to have anything referenced as a Joker. I want to pay a tribute to Heath Ledger. I don't want that tarnished.
Well, yeah, he said something like, he's like, oh yeah, I don't want to disrespect the memory of Heath Ledger.
Do you think that's disrespecting?
No.
Him?
Okay.
It's a character.
Okay, listen. Like, I think that if they would have done that scene, it would have been disrespectful, but the reference would have been a little too much. But the problem is they don't even mention his name. They're not like, there's scenes where like, Alfred and Batman or Bruce Wayne are like arguing, and like there's not even a scene where it's like, look, ever since the Joker killed Rachel, you haven't been yourself. It's like they don't even mention the Joker as a character, as if he never happened. It's like they show Two-Face and there's that quick flash where you see his face and he's yelling, but it's like they don't even mention the Joker. It's like he never happened. And it's
That's
just
what I'm
like,
saying.
and that's what pissed me off. It's like, look, yeah, if you mention Joker's name, there's obviously gonna be people in the audience who are gonna go, "Oh, the Joker!" Oh, the fucking, they're gonna fan orgasm, nerdgasm. But it's like, that's not. I don't think that would have taken me or anyone else out of the movie. I would have kind of been like, the Joker, I missed that. But I wouldn't have been like, I want to see Joker now. I don't care about anything. Or, oh, you're disrespecting Heath Ledger because you mentioned his character's name. You know, and that just to me was dumb. Why he chose to do that, why he thought it would be disrespectful, I don't know.
Well, because in the Dark Knight, you know, you have Scarecrow at the beginning.
Right.
He was in the first film. Then he was actually also in the Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, he's
that
the judge. You know, people thought that was going to maybe be Joker if he was still alive, if Heath Ledger lived or something. Like, it would be Joker being the judge. That would have been kind of funny.
That would have been kind of funny.
Yeah.
But I don't see the Joker taking orders from Bane. I really don't see that.
No, he wouldn't. Joker would have ended up trying to take over the city again or something, because that's Joker. That's what he always tries to do. He always, like, anytime he's working with someone and he's sort of like villain, he's in a partnership, he ends up just being like, I'm gonna kill everyone because I don't care, ha 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 ha. I
mean, that's the only really gripe I had about that film, was just the 8-year gap. The fact there was no reference to Joker, like the guy never existed. I mean, they were talking about a lot of past shit too, so it just didn't fit right.
Well, I noticed the movie talked more about the first movie than it did about
there was
the
a lot
Dark
of
Knight.
themes.
The only thing they talked about in the Dark Knight Rises that had to do with the previous film was Rachel and Harvey Dent. They don't talk about Joker, obviously, and then they don't really talk about Falcone or the mob or Maroni or any of those guys.
No, not
but
at all.
It's like they just did everything they can to avoid talking about Joker.
Because of what you said about Christopher Nolan. Still, I get it. I mean, I didn't need that reference, but it would have been nice because to kind of cap off this trilogy we have.
Well, it's like, hey, this happened. There's an entire movie featuring this character. You can't cut it out because it's too iconic. It's made too much money. You can't not mention it without it seeming weird. And a lot of interviewers asked him that same question. Why didn't you mention him? You don't even bring him up. And it's like, yeah, I agree. That was more distracting than than bringing him up would have been. And so if that's really his reasoning, then I think he's being a little bit of a little pussy. I don't think his family's going to get offended. And if they are, well, they're idiots because the fucking Joker is still talked about to this day.
Think about it like this. They would have done a lot of fan service in that scene. Like, say, or for example, if when Bane was coming and just kind of fucking shit up in Gotham.
I don't think they should have showed Joker. I think that
okay, let's just say they didn't show him.
Right.
If Bruce and Alfred were having a discussion and Bruce said, we haven't seen madness like this since the Joker appeared 8 years ago or something. Like, if they just said that one fucking line, like, to kind of...
That would have been a fun little nerdgasm scene. Like, they mentioned him. But it also would have been like, yes, they mentioned him. He happened. It happened. Now we can move on.
That was a huge thing that happened in the city. I mean, he almost blew up. He blew up a hospital. He fucking almost blew up two boats.
He caused a lot of fucking problems. And so
if they just want to be like, oh, that's happened, whatever. But anyways, I didn't really like that much. I also was kind of a little bit unsure about the whole Catwoman thing because I first saw some photos of her and she was on the Bat Pod, and I'm like, that's Catwoman.
I gotta say, I loved her. I thought she was wonderful. I thought she was great. Now, I'm not a huge Catwoman fan. Like, oh, she didn't do this thing like the real Selena Kyle. Whatever. I'm just talking about movie Selena Kyle. I thought Anne Hathaway was great. I personally don't really care for her much as an actress. I think she's a little too silly, and I see a lot of interviews. She's very kind of over the top and kind of annoying.
She had the body.
Yeah, she had the body. She had the charm and the cool sleekness of Catwoman.
Yeah.
I thought she was great, and I also I would have been okay if they called her Catwoman. It didn't bug me that they didn't.
They didn't even say that in the whole film,
like
did
that
they?
she doesn't wear the ears. That when she pulls her goggles off, they look like ears. I'm like, this is fucking perfect. I thought it was.
I know. I mean, it would look silly if she did that, but the thing is, you're right. They never even referenced her. They didn't say Catwoman at all
in the
whole
news
film.
articles that you see. She's just known as the Cat.
Yeah, they never say Catwoman, so I understand that, but I mean, like I said,
she doesn't die and get resurrected by a cat goddess from Egypt.
Exactly. I mean,
it could have been worse.
Yeah, but the skin tight suit she had looked pretty awesome. The heels she had looked awesome. I'm
heels,
just saying.
You notice the heels had like blades.
Yeah.
She wasn't just wearing heels to like sexualize her. It was like, hey, I'm wearing heels that are sexy, but they'll also kick your ass and cut your fucking face and shit. And like everything about her was perfect.
Do you remember that scene though? I mean, I just said I really didn't like her in the movie, but there are some scenes of her that actually I like a lot is that when the bar scene, when she was pretending like she was I think it was when the cops broke in or
And she's
something.
screaming for
She's
help.
screaming like she's just some random
Like she's a damsel in
bystander.
distress.
Yeah. So and she, it was great. You also know that God, why can't I think of his name? The guy who was the villain in the last Star Wars film was
Oh, I don't know the actor's name. He played
Ben
Daggett.
Mendelsohn.
He played,
Ben Mendelsohn. Or
that his
something.
name? That's
think
the
it's-
actor's name? Yeah,
think
but
so.
he played John Daggett, that character.
Yeah, he was Daggett,
Yeah.
which actually Daggett
Daggett the Baggett.
Daggett was the actual guy in the cartoon that created Clayface.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had an industry where he Clayface fell in some chemicals that Daggett created, and he blamed him for it. Anyway, so yeah, he was in it. He was the one that Bane squeezes his head or crushes his head or something like that.
Yeah, they never really show what he does. I
can
assume he's
hear it.
crushing his head because you hear him
Gotta be.
screaming.
So the whole scene also at the football field was pretty cool when he blows a hole in the whole entire thing.
Yeah, dude, I watched the making of that, like the behind the scenes, and basically it was a giant like green screen field type thing, and like the actors, the extras would jump in these little holes that were padded, and to make it look like they were falling, and yeah, no, the way this movie's shot, the special effects and everything, it's all that's all perfect. You can't bash that in any way. The stuff that I really don't like,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
he's fine. He's whatever.
The Robin reference at the end.
That didn't bug me. I thought that was actually kind of neat. Okay, so let's get into it. So I don't like the time jump. I don't like the fact that Batman's injured, like his body is like, scar tissue, and he like didn't bother to fix his fucking knee. I get it. You're sad about fucking Rachel dying, boo-hoo, but I think a rational person would at least fix his knee and just retire. Kind of like in The Dark Knight Returns in the comics, just like he retired. That's it. It's
But he was very sad at the same time.
He
was
was
just
sad.
very bored.
He hated his life. He was sad. He was bored. But it's like, he didn't like have an injury that he neglected because, oh, boo-hoo, I'm not Batman anymore. I'm going to let my fucking knee rot. And then he gets a fucking like magical knee brace that just fixes everything.
Exactly.
And also, remember that scene where he puts the knee brace on and then he kicks a brick wall, and it's like, what? And they don't do anything with that either. You don't see him kick Bane later and like disembowel Bane or something. So I'm just like, what was the point of that? Another thing I didn't like was how Joseph Gordon-Levitt just figured out that he was Batman.
Oh yeah, fuck. That
Like,
was way
okay,
off.
when they first said it, I thought they were referencing, he's like, oh, I know you don't know who I am, but we've met before. It was a long time ago. I was a kid. I thought it was going to be, remember the kid who played Joffrey in Batman
Oh, you're talking
Begins?
about that kid when he gave
I
that
thought it
little
was
thing.
him. I was like,
Oh.
okay, he doesn't have blonde hair, but okay, whatever. I thought they were like, oh, you know what? They're going to make him important or something.
Oh,
but
it's
like,
you. Kids at school won't believe me.
yeah, okay, so remember when he throws him that piece of tech?
Yeah.
I wouldn't
He
be
would have
surprised.
popped that out or something, said, I still have this. Or
I wouldn't be surprised if he was just like, if that kid character like opened it up and read that like it had something to do with Wayne Enterprises.
Or like
and then,
he like tracked it or something.
yeah, and he just kind of figures out through time that this is Wayne Enterprise, this is a Wayne thing. Batman he seemed to show up around the same time Bruce Wayne did. And he just kind of puts two and two together. Mm-hmm. And then you see him later, oh, hey, I was inspired by you. I became a police officer. But no, it's like, oh, hiding anger is like wearing a mask. And when I saw you, I knew you were Batman because you're wearing it like a mask. I'm like, what? Like, you figured out
you came
he
to
was
me
Batman.
at an orphanage, and I knew right from then.
I knew
Looking in
because
your
you were
eyes.
so fake and artificial that you were Batman. It's like, what? It would have just made more sense. Like, oh yeah, you came back around the same time Batman showed up, and who else would have a lot of money for something like that?
Did you
You're
also notice-
like really ripped.
Did you notice? He was like the orphanage that he was living in, and there was
Yeah.
like kids. Probably looked like maybe there were 8, maybe 7.
Yeah, between like 8 and like 16.
So these kids knew who Batman was, and they're like, "Is he coming back? Is he coming?" What the
no,
fuck?
the
You're
only
like-
person who seemed to know at that point was Joseph Gordon-Levitt. But they knew who he was as a person. They didn't know he was Batman, but they knew that he existed.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously some of the kids were like, I didn't think he was real, because like they say later, like, oh yeah, Batman's been gone for almost a generation, so a lot of these younger folks don't even believe that he existed, which is kind of cool. They do the same thing in Dark Knight Returns. Like I said, this movie has a lot of the same themes as Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that that part was fine. But yeah, it's like he figures out that he's Bruce Wayne, or that he's Batman, which made no fucking sense, but fuck it, okay. And then it made sense that Bane knew who he was, because it's like, oh yeah, you were part of the League of Shadows. We all knew who you were. I'm part of the League of Shadows. So yeah, we know you're Bruce Wayne. That was fine to me, but it just seems like everyone knew who he was.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, fuck it. All right. The movie was too long.
Yeah, it was pretty long.
It's kind of like in the middle. It's after Batman gets captured and thrown into that prison. The movie just kind of just draws out. It draws out.
It's because you're just suddenly seeing Bane take over the city.
Yeah, but like there's
blowing all the bridges, all that shit.
Yeah, there's that scene where like the CIA shows up, and it's just kind of like you see them. They show up and like, we're gonna do a thing, and then nothing happens, and they just get hung. And the movie's just kind of boring. I get it. It was kind of needed to a degree, because it's supposed to show, hey, no matter what people try to do, Bane and the League of Shadows have complete control over the city, and nothing gets past them. CIA people can't sneak in without their knowledge, without them knowing it. And so that all made sense, but it was just they could have made all that a little quicker. The big one. This is the big thing I didn't like.
Here it comes.
Here it comes.
It's gonna hurt.
Sin City reference there. No, the big thing was the concept of, we are gonna fulfill Ra's al Ghul's destiny. So it's like, was it Ra's al Ghul's destiny to destroy Gotham, just Gotham, or was it his destiny to just be a city destroyer?
Well, he pretty much in the first film said it needed to be cleansed.
He said every time a civilization reaches the pinnacle of its decadence, we return to restore the balance. I remember that line very vividly. And, he just talks about, he's like, yeah, pretty much anytime like a city starts going to shit or something, we kind of show up and we fix things.
You're not really fixing it if you're going to explode a nuclear device.
Yeah, well, that was just like, hey, we're going to show up and we're going to act like a cult, and we're going to nuke a city with us in it. You're going to wipe out the League of Shadows as it is because of Ra's al Ghul? The League of Shadows, what is it? They say they sacked Rome. So the League of Shadows has been around for at least like almost 2,000 years.
Yeah.
And you're just going to sack it? You're going to destroy all that because Ra's al Ghul didn't get to destroy Gotham? That made no sense to me.
Well, if you really
they're just going to sacrifice their lives and be done with it. It's like, why don't you just come and nuke the fucking city and then leave?
Well, if you really think about it, it was Talia who was the head of this whole...
She was.
So she probably, obviously, knew her father died. She knew that Bruce Wayne was responsible for it. And this was her way of getting back at him. And she's like, my father's destiny is fulfilled or something. So she knew her father had this vision for Gotham. And this was her way, like I said, of getting the revenge that she wanted. And
yeah, but why would she... See, if I was...
She slept with him first.
No, yes, but if I was in the League of Shadows and my leader said, we're all going to kill ourselves and we're going to destroy our order because I miss my dad, I think people would go, fuck that. We're going to overthrow her and we're going to install a new leader because that's stupid. We don't want to die for that. Like, I get it. In the League of Shadows is about indoctrination, and in the end, it is very culty. But it's like their job isn't to go and blow themselves. They're not fucking ISIS. They're not going to go somewhere and blow themselves up in the name of the League. They're going to go somewhere and they're going to help destroy it. If they have to kill themselves, they will. But it's not. This isn't fucking Jonestown where they're just going to show up and kill themselves and take everything else with them. It would be more just kind of like, it would make more sense if the League was like, hey, we're gonna send some people there to destroy Gotham, and they're most likely gonna die, but our order is gonna live. That would have made more sense. But to my knowledge, the entire League of Shadows, including the head, which was Talia, and what I thought was also Bane, are just gonna show up and kill themselves just because of one guy. That didn't make sense to me. That would have made sense in the comics because Ra's al Ghul had been alive for 600 years. So you could say to yourself, oh, Ra's al Ghul is the League of Shadows.
Yeah, but Talia in the comic books was more of like into Bruce as a lover. I don't think
she wanted it. Well, what is it? Ra's and her were both like, hey, we want Batman to become the new leader. But Batman's like, no, I'm not a killer.
Yeah, but
I'm not going to be the leader.
She was so into him, like, and they had a kid together, which was Damian.
Yeah.
But, the
12th fucking Robin name. No. It all makes sense. Like, like I said, it would have made more sense if Ra's al Ghul from the comics was killed by Batman, And they're like, oh my God, he was the League of Shadows. What are we going to do without him? Let's just kill ourselves. That would have made more sense. But it's like, in this, it's like, Ra's al Ghul had probably only been ahead of the League of Shadows for maybe 30 or 40 years. But the Order had been around for at least 2,000 years. So it's just like, let's not kill ourselves in the name of one leader. Let's just destroy Gotham and be done with it. And then move on to something else. And so that's something I really didn't like. I thought that didn't make sense, and I thought it was a plot hole. That's my biggest problem with the movie.
Wait, didn't they say, though, in the film that Bane was kicked out of the League of Shadows?
Yeah, but then, yeah, that's another thing. He was kicked out because he was too extreme, but then he was in league with the League of Shadows.
Yeah.
So it was like, was it a way of just deceiving the underworld?
God, there's so many
Well, yeah, there's a bunch of fucking plot holes in this movie. It's like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Why not just, hey, Bane is the new leader of the League of Shadows, and oh shit. And like that, because that was the red herring as well. The red herring in that movie was Bane is the child of Ra's al Ghul. Bane is the leader of the League of Shadows. But then it's not. It's Talia. And the twist didn't really...
I saw that coming too, by the way.
I didn't, because I didn't know a lot about... I didn't start getting into Batman really until after that movie. Once that movie was done, then I started... Then, after that, then Batman became my new favorite superhero.
Okay.
He is, by the way, my favorite superhero of all time.
I was actually going to ask you before we ended the thing. But
He is my favorite superhero. There's obviously others that I really like, but Batman is my favorite superhero.
So it was the films that kind of drove you into actually...
Yeah. Well, once,
getting into the character.
I loved Batman Begins. I loved The Dark Knight for obvious reasons. And then after Dark Knight Rises came out, I had a pretty decent job and I was making decent money. I'm like, you know what? I said to myself, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy some comics. Mm-hmm. So I bought some old Batman stuff. And then when The Dark Knight Returns cartoon came out, I watched it on the internet and I was like, dude, I really dig Batman.
And the games too.
And the fucking games, of course, were great. Arkham City's I think that's my favorite out of the trilogy.
Yeah, that's my favorite too.
The third one looks better. And obviously, it has more stuff to do, and the gameplay is better. But in terms of story and content, I like
it's not
the
that great.
One. Yeah. And so, like, with all that in mind, now that I look back on it, when I saw Dark Knight Rises, I really, 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 really liked it. I loved it. But then actually, after I started getting into Batman and kind of, understanding the motivations of the characters, because here's the thing: people always complain, like, oh, well, one of the first complaints I heard about Heath Ledger's Joker. What the fuck? He's not silly. He's too dark. He looks like a hobo. Here's the problem.
I actually never heard that. I heard that he was... That... I didn't mean to cut you off there, buddy, but I'm saying, like, the thing is that there's been a different incarnations of the Joker, and I think that was perfect. But I hear what you're saying. People are saying, he doesn't laugh that much, or...
He doesn't tell a lot of jokes, but here's the thing. The way you present Batman, the way you present the Joker, his interpretation doesn't matter. Because at their core, they're the same character. In the end, Batman is still he's a Dark Knight who doesn't want to kill anyone, and he believes that everyone deserves a fair trial, and and he believes that killing will just make him as bad as his villains that he's fighting. He's like that in the comics, he's like that in the cartoons, and he's like that in the Dark Knight movies. His core character is the same. Same with the Joker. He's chaotic, he wants to watch Gotham burn, he wants to break Batman's spirit, and he wants everyone to hate Batman, and he wants Batman to become what he is, a killer. Mm-hmm. He wants him to take that final step. In The Dark Knight Rises, it was different because, like I said, the characters didn't feel like they are in the comics. Their core character didn't feel that way because, like you said, Talia in the comics loves Batman. She obviously had his baby, and in the end, she wanted him to take over the League of Shadows. Mm-hmm. But in this, it's like, no, I'm a suicidal fucking bitch who's mad at you because you possibly killed... she doesn't even know for sure if he actually delivered the killing blow. It's like, your dad died in a train.
Well, he just jumped out of the fucking train and it just crashed. So.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, well, the tumbler blew up the train, the rails. It's like, okay, but it's like your dad in the end could have not been in the train. That was another thing. One of the things in Batman Begins he says is when Batman, the character Batman and Ra's al Ghul finally getting ready to fight, he's like, wow, you took my bit about theatricality a bit literally, which is a funny line. And he's like, this ends here. And he goes, for you and the police, maybe. But my fate, however, lies with the rest of Gotham. So I'm like, oh, so you're going to kill yourself. I didn't catch that until I watched Dark Knight Rises and then went back and watched Batman Begins. I was like, oh, he was going to kill himself. Why?
That was his intention.
Why? That makes no sense. Like, why don't you just fucking put the thing on the train, make sure no one gets on the train, and then just destroy the brakes and let it crash and
I never got that
leave.
reference either. I was like, why would he want to kill himself?
Yeah, it's just like that's not their character. That's not how they function. Because in the end, obviously in the comics, Ra's al Ghul wants to live forever.
He knows his time's up, though. He wants Batman to take his mantle, and basically Batman
in the comics, yeah,
exactly. He's just like, I'm not going to take over your mantle. That's not who I am. So it's like, all right, I'm just going to kill you if you don't want to take it, because he knows that his time's up. He goes in the Lazarus pit, big boy words, and literally like he keeps on getting resurrected. But every time you get resurrected from that shit, you get more crazy in the head.
Yeah, because in the end,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't work.
Saying that word so much.
Fucking
in the end,
kill yourself. In the end, it doesn't fix your brain. Eventually, your brain starts deteriorating, but it regenerates your body, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, it makes you like strong and shit. Like
it makes you younger.
I've seen him like where they've shown him like he was like fucking crispy old man, right?
And then
he
gets
throw him in that shit,
yeah.
and he comes out and he gets younger, and and he still has that like a huge fucking
physique. Yeah.
So I mean, I get that. I totally get that. I think that was kind of a dumb idea.
They changed his core character, and it's like, okay, his fate was to die with Gotham, not in Gotham. So rather than killing yourselves and destroying the League, why don't you just destroy Gotham? Maybe Talia kills herself. Maybe Talia's like, I'm gonna die with my father. But it's like, well, who's gonna be the leader? Fucking Bane? It would have just made more sense, like, hey, the League is back, and we're gonna destroy Gotham. But hey, Batman, why don't you join us? And this time, why don't you become our leader? Like, they make it so it's not just they're not ISIS, they're not a bunch of fucking terrorists.
Because that's what actually felt like.
I just felt like they were a bunch of terrorists. That they were just like Allahu Akbar, fucking destroy Gotham with ourselves in it. That's not what the League is. I mean, first of all, they're called the League of Assassins in the comics. They're not this weird cult like they are in the movies. And so, like I said, although Christopher Nolan has a good way of changing,
they call them League of Shadows, but they're League of Assassins. Yeah.
Although Christopher Nolan has a good way of keeping, like I said, he keeps their core character intact. He really fucked up with Ra's al Ghul, and that whole concept and the concept of the League. It didn't work, and it didn't make sense. I go back and I watch this movie and I do enjoy it because in the end I do know what's happening. I do say that a lot.
You do say that word a lot.
I guess it's a good.
That song is now stuck in my head thanks to you from saying that so much.
Oh, yeah, that song's stuck just hanging out in your head.
It's dangling like fucking like one of those sombreros with the balls.
Yeah, dangling like a sombrero. Okay. No, but I can go back and watch this movie. And I enjoy it because it has good acting. The tone's great. The music's great. Repetitive. I know I've said that a million times. But it has its flaws. Also, for instance, everyone complained about this. How did Batman get out of the
I was going to actually talk about that.
So quick. We saw him
if he actually died, or if Alfred was actually like conveniently in the same place that he was talking about, and then saw him. A lot of people were going, okay, is he imagining seeing him with? But then he also saw Selena, so how would he fucking know that?
Okay, so I talked to a friend of mine about this, and he said it would have been cool if you never see Bruce Wayne. All you see is Michael Keaton look at the camera, smile.
Michael Keaton?
Michael Caine. It would have been better if you see Michael Caine look at the camera, smile, nod like he did, and then it just shows him leaving. Because then it's like, wait, is he alive? Is he imagining it? Oh my God! And then it leaves it as a cliffhanger. You don't know if he's alive or not. It's implied, and it's speculated, but you don't know for sure because it's like, well, Alfred could be hallucinating. After all, he's getting old, and you never know. But
yeah,
that would have been better. But if this movie was edited a little better, and if it was shorter, like maybe like a half hour shorter, it would have been a perfect movie. Not perfect because in the end there's still plot holes, but it would have been a better movie than it was. But it's hard for me to enjoy this movie now because I'm a little more critical of films, and it's just not that good.
Yeah, I think it was probably the weakest of the three, personally.
Absolutely. For sure.
It wasn't a shit movie, but it was the weakest out of the three. And
absolutely.
I think the fact that they delved more into the League of Shadows, and the fact that Batman didn't even hardly show up in the film until like an hour later in the movie.
That bugged a lot of people. I was okay with that because Iron Man 3 was like that.
There's hardly any Iron Man.
Yeah,
in that
and
movie.
the movie was more about the Bruce Wayne character, and that was okay. It bugged me at first because I'm like, I want to see more Batman, but now, I actually enjoyed it. That stuff didn't bug me. It was just all the stuff I mentioned.
You know what really
earlier.
bugged me is the fact when he was in the prison, how they can get cable down there.
How'd they get the rope down there? Oh, they had
cable.
TV cable. Well, maybe Bane's
Future.
like, I'm gonna go back to my prison and I'm going to install cable. We have Comcast in the Middle East in the caves.
Yeah,
because I want to torture Batman.
I do like the fact though that it was like a way of breaking down Batman, than him just rising. Actually, to tell you the truth, I hated that fucking title.
So did I. It was stupid.
It was like, let's take the second title and put the word rises at it. They could have, when I really was thinking about
You know what
it.
they should have just called it?
What?
Nightfall.
They could have called it Nightfall,
Yep.
or they should have called it, Shadow of the Bat or something, because there's so many names for Batman. I don't like the Cape Crusader or something like that.
No,
but-
no, that's too silly. But
no, that's silly. But you're right. It's like Nightfall or exactly
Wasn't
like
that
Shadow
what the
of the
comic was called when he broke
The
Batman's
series
back?
was it was Batman, but the storyline was called Nightfall.
Okay, so that would have been even better if they just called it Nightfall.
Yeah, but then people would have been like, so you say Dark Knight. I just don't know. But anyways, to the
The
end
title wasn't that original.
to the end of it though, for me, I think I like the fact that when they were having the city battle with all the cops and all the inmates, and it looked like it was going to be a straight fucking
Oh, it was a brawl. No, dude, I love that when you're seeing all them walk. This was one of my favorite scenes when you're seeing all them walking to what seems like their deaths. It's like, oh shit, they're all gonna get shot by the other tumbler stuff.
and then the
like,
bat,
then the fucking thing, the bat shows up, shoots their guns, and everyone just gets hella pumped. They're like, yeah! They're like, fuck it, and they just run into it, and that was fucking.
And
perfect.
here you had this dun 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 dun.
That
dun,
was
dun,
it.
dun.
Got me very pumped because I was like, I would probably do the same thing. I would be so happy, like Batman's here, Batman's alive. There's hope. Let's fuck him up, and then just run. That scene was
It's like
perfect.
a wall of death, pretty
Yeah.
much.
And see, I really liked that whole sequence, that whole city battle, because it's like that was the only time you've ever seen Batman in daytime.
in daylight, yeah.
And I was talking to a friend of mine about this. I'm like, oh my God, Batman's fighting in the daylight. And my friend was like, maybe things are just so fucked up. He just has to. And I'm like, oh my God. And like I said, the movie wasn't that great. The movie could have been better, but that was a good scene.
hated
That's
that-
another reason I can enjoy it.
I hated that line though when it was like your typical 2-liter brawl. He's like, "So you came to die with your city," and he's like, "No, I came to stop you." And it was just so cheesy. It was so cheesy, but I get
you know
it.
what would have been cool? If he just said, "It's over, Bane."
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I mean,
classic Batman, "It's over" villain
Can
pronoun.
you actually help me with this? So the mask that he wore, it was pumping some sort of drug into him.
It was a painkiller.
So he
It was a painkiller.
was a painkiller. No, so what the fuck was wrong with him? Because they showed him when he was getting mangled by those guys in the pit, and then all of a sudden, are we learned to suspect that his face was just ripped to shit, and he has to wear this thing now? And
Well, to my knowledge, the doctors who he got mauled during that brawl when he saved little baby Talia, and the doctors who worked on him didn't put him back together right.
Mhm.
And so he was constantly basically he was always in pain because his bones and his body weren't put together properly, and so he was in a very uncomfortable place. And so that doctor in the movie who speaks a lot of Arabic and who's bald and shit and who
Yeah.
eventually speaks English, I don't know his character's name, but I
the
guess
one
was
that helped push his back together.
no, that was the other dude. That was the guy who had the hair on his head. I don't know
Okay.
their character names. Yeah, there was two doctors or whatever, and it was the older doctor who kind of who says at the end, he's like, "Make the climb without rope. The fear will find you again."
Yeah.
That guy. He I guess was they mentioned briefly that he was like a narcotics doctor. He was always he was addicted to the painkillers and shit, and so
Uh-huh.
he, I guess, made some sort of prototype mask, which you see later on in the movie, where Bane just has a wrap
The
on
hose
his face.
breaks off, and you hear this.
Yeah.
Shh.
Well, no, remember when they show a flashback? They show Bane with just kind of a thing.
Yeah,
over
he
his
had,
face,
wrapping
and it's
around
all
his face.
bloody. I think that was a prototype of his mask, where this is something that has an unlimited supply of painkiller in it. And then the mask was I guess his final mask was just a better version of it. And I thought to myself, so he's not actually that strong. He is strong, but he just can't feel a lot of pain. Okay, so let's say that let's say that's
saying.
true. Even if you're hyped up on adrenaline, scientifically speaking, if you're hyped up on adrenaline
on PCP or some
on
shit.
PCP, you know what? You've heard stories of people on PCP falling and breaking their backs and running. In the end,
No,
their
I've heard
backs
shit
are
like
still
that, yeah.
fucking broken, and it would get to the point where, let's say Bane can't feel anything that he does, and you can beat him and stab him and whatever, he can't feel. His body is eventually going to break down because it's broken. His body's broken. This fucking gas wouldn't keep his body from being broken. It would keep him from feeling pain, but it wouldn't keep his body from being broken. So it didn't make sense. It's like I said, it should have just been a mask where he presses a button and he goes rage mode. Like full adrenaline berserker mode. It shouldn't have been like it's holding the pain back from his body that's broken. It's like,
well, if you look at that scene where him and Batman were fighting at the end in daylight, and you know Batman was actually kind of getting the upper hand, and he was like Bane was punching, and you see him literally punching a fucking concrete pillar to fucking shit.
Yeah, he would have broken his hands.
But
and also, if he was hitting things that hard, why didn't he break Batman's armor or break his face? You know,
he broke the mask.
It was just there to look cool. That punching the wall, the pillar, and breaking it, that was just like, ooh, look how cool it looks. Look how angry Bane is.
Like, he was getting really fucking jacked up. So I'm like, this guy is obviously on something. So I'm always thinking, like, that gas that was being sprayed into his face was, like, in a way, like a PCP kind of stimulant where, like, this is, like, helping my pain, but at the same time, it's making me, like, a fucking just
making him
super
stronger. But see, all they say is that it holds his pain back. But if you think about it biologically, it doesn't make sense.
And also, if you really look at his back, he had all these scars and shit all over him. So maybe that was part of like the mauling.
Well, if I were him, I'd be like, hey, you're in the League of Shadows now, and we have unlimited resources. Let's get you into a doctor and fix you. That's what it should have been. But
I like how Catwoman came in at the end and just blew him with the fucking bat pod.
You know, I actually hated that.
You did.
When I saw that at first, but in the end, I liked it. I was just like, you know, it makes sense because we're expecting like another showdown, but it's just like, no, it just gets blown away. It was fine.
Yeah.
No, one thing about Bane real quick, is that, like, have you ever seen the movie Warrior with Joel, I think it's Joel Egerton and Tom Hardy? They play UFC brothers, UFC fighters who are brothers. It's a very, very good film. It came out a year before Dark Knight Rises did.
Okay.
Tom Hardy plays a UFC fighter in that, and he looks scarier in that than he does in The Dark Knight Rises because he's like his trap muscles are huge, and so it kind of makes him do this, you know?
Yeah.
And he's a lot more leaner. One of the things he talked about, he's like, oh yeah, when I was getting ready for Dark Knight Rises to make myself look bigger, they said don't do cardio, so he was just bulking. But if you see him in Warrior, he looks scarier. His muscles are more defined. His traps are bigger. He's doing this lean that makes him look more like a Titan monster thing. I think they should have just done that. I think they should have. One of the things they do in movies is muscle dusting. In 300, like they drew on a lot of their six packs, you know. So what they should have done.
Yeah, I heard about that. That's silly.
Well, they show him shirtless. There's that one shirtless scene where he's like completely shirtless, and that's when you see his back. His back looks scary, but his front looks like.
It looked like shit.
It just looked flabby. And I know the actor himself had all that muscle, but he also had all that fat keeping it on. And so what it should have been was that they muscle dusted him and just drew on the muscle to complement what's already there over all that fat, and it would have just made him look fucking beastly. Or don't make him so bulky, lean him out a little bit, and then just use cool camera angles to make him look bigger than he is. Because for another thing is Tom Hardy is a couple inches shorter than Christian Bale. Tom Hardy's 5'10".
Yeah. I saw like them side by side when they were fighting, and I'm like, what? That's one of the things that was pissing me off about Bane was the fact that he's huge in the fucking comic books, and then he's like shorter than Batman.
Well, like the film effects and the magic of film trickery, they hid that a lot better. They did make Bane look bigger than the actual actor was, but I think if they wanted to make him look scarier, he should have looked the way he did in Warrior, because he fucking scared the shit out of me.
I gotta see that film. I definitely have to see that film.
It's a great movie.
How old is that movie?
2011.
2011.
No, 2010. Came out in 2010. I think it came out around the time for Oscar season, so there was like a limited release, and then it came out.
There was actually trickery to the first teaser trailer for this movie. I noticed it. It was like not a lot of shots. They showed Bane's face really quick. They showed the climbing out of the fucking prison, and then that scene at the very the beginning, the first fight they have when they're fighting on the walkway, and it's a shot of Batman kind of backing up, and you only see Bane from his back.
Oh, that first teaser?
And you just see him like walking up
and
the
he's
stairs.
doing that lean, that cool. That
You
made him
don't
look
know
like a
how
beast.
big. You don't know how big he is because he just like they were just showing him walking up, and it's like huge back.
That first trailer made Bane seem scarier than he was in the entire movie.
Oh yeah,
Like I said, he was sillier. He wasn't as intimidating.
exactly. So
on a scale, if you had to rate, not a scale, but if you had to put these in order, number one being the best, what would be your number one?
fucking Dark Knight for sure.
And then
the Dark Knight is just because it's not Heath Ledger. Like, okay, let's for example, I mean the everything that got popular from that film was him. I know a lot of people that just skip all the scenes, and with him in it, they watch all those scenes, and then they're like, all right, the rest of the movie's garbage, which is stupid.
Yeah, I disagree that it's garbage.
No, it's not garbage. Then he won an Academy Award and an Oscar for all this shit, and you're asking yourself, would he win this shit if he was alive? I mean,
some people thought that he wouldn't have, but it was either that or Robert Downey Jr. for going blackface, pissing everyone off.
Yeah. But here's the thing, and that was the first one that what really made that film. Besides,
it's the Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight, because I knew Heath Ledger, his acting. Like, I've seen him in the other films.
Yeah.
And when I saw him in that film with the face paint on, he was like a completely different person. Like,
I didn't recognize him at all.
His voice was different. Like, he's got this heavy Australian accent, and in this movie, he's like, "Oh, well, I thank you." It's just like
blah blah blah. Yeah, the classic Joker voice.
Like,
yeah.
man, have I killed?
Yeah.
It's like it was just so creepy. And then that's one of the redeeming things about this whole film was the fact that the story was great. It was a good battle between him and the Joker and all that. Now the second film was Batman Begins. Even though
that'd be your number two on the.
That'd be my number two.
Okay.
Is the fact that just because the film was the first time we got introduced to this whole entire new world with Christian Bale and all that stuff, and I watched it last night and I still love it. And it's really, really funny because I bought that Blu-ray set probably like 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first time I watched that from that set, because I always watched Dark Knight Rises or Dark Knight. I never gave Batman Begins a chance, and then I did it again. I'm like, fuck, this is actually a good movie. So yes, second would be that, and of course Dark Knight Rises would be third for a lot of the reasons we talked about. So what about you?
Well, I might sound like a fucking asshole hipster for this, but I've always debated what my number one would be, because of that huge plot hole at the end of Dark Knight Rise, or The Dark Knight.
Yeah,
that, and there's a couple other things in the movie. Like I said, the gun thing, but I think that Batman Begins is a perfect movie because everything makes sense. The plot holes are so minimal. Like I said, the big plot hole is the microwave, and it doesn't kill everything that it would destroy everything, like I said, instead of just water. But yeah, I think it's a perfect little movie, and it's wrapped up in a nice little bow at the end, and the ending's good. But also The Dark Knight is it's a little more innovative cinematically. Obviously Heath Ledger is amazing, and it's a little more of an exciting movie. So I honestly don't know what would be my number one. But my number three obviously is
Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight Rises.
So you can't really pick between Dark Knight or Batman Begins.
They're different too. They're slightly different movies, and they're both really good. I mean, I want to say The Dark Knight is my favorite, but like I said, man, Batman Begins is just it's a perfect little movie wrapped in a nice little bow.
That you put under your tree.
It doesn't try to be too complicated. Getting into the whole psychology of like villains and heroes like the second movie does, and it's just a perfect little movie.
Yeah, it's great. So, I mean, would this be considered your favorite movie trilogy of all time?
Since Godfather 3 is so bad, probably. Because the first two Godfather movies are great, but the third one sucks.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can take the original Star Wars.
I was going to say the original Star Wars. Everyone doesn't like
Jedi.
I love Jedi. I don't know what the fuck everyone's talking about.
Yeah.
I will go ahead.
You probably have to think about it for a while.
Say yes.
Because you can say Captain America.
Nah, they don't have a trilogy yet. Well, no,
they do.
It's not my favorite. It is a trilogy. You're right. No, I think The Dark Knight is my favorite trilogy because, like I said, although I have a lot of issues with The Dark Knight Rises, I still like it.
But that's like something you can definitely watch every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same thing for me. I think it's one of my favorite trilogies.
Star Wars. Fuck me. I can't decide.
You got a gun in your head right
I don't know.
now. What are you going to pick?
Great.
Come on.
Those are the two best trilogies in the world.
Okay.
Are those movies.
So the big question I have for you, is I know you're not really liking the DCEU movies right now. You thought Wonder Woman was good. You hated Batman v Superman. You hated Man of Steel. You absolutely hated Suicide Squad.
I didn't absolutely hate it. I didn't like Jared Leto's Joker, and there was a lot of issues with it. It's not. I don't like it, but I don't think it's a shit show. Although it's pretty fucking bad, and there's a lot of problems with it. Are you gonna ask me on a scale which is best?
No. Actually, what I was gonna ask you, since we've been discussing Batman, and you know, now that we have Christopher Nolan's trilogy, you know, put aside and buried in movie success, it's always gonna be a classic. For the future of Batman, are you at least excited about anything about it? Because do you think that there's any kind of promise coming up with this Ben Affleck Batman movie that might be coming out, directed, I think, by Matt Reeves? Yeah, the guy that did
we talked about that. The Planet of the Apes.
Do you have any kind of hope for these films? Because you explained to me last night on the phone, you told me something about WB. You talked to me about.
Well, we're coming up on 2 hours here. We will eventually make a separate podcast talking about all the DC movies and Warner Brothers as a studio. Fuck Warner Brothers. But I think Warner Brothers needs new leadership, and I think they need to fucking seriously think about the direction they're heading in, because they're really fucking up. Wonder Woman was a good movie. It wasn't anything more than that. It was a decent film, and I understood everything, and things made sense. There's a lot of problems with it, and we'll talk about that when we have a DC
talk about it next
podcast. Time. Yeah. But I think that Warner Brothers seriously needs to change their game a little bit before I believe these movies are going to get good. Well, is Matt Reeves confident, or is he a competent filmmaker? Can I speak? Is he a competent filmmaker? Yes. Is Warner Brothers going to let him do his thing without fucking it up? Probably not.
Oh, wow, I thought they would have.
I think they're going to fucking
from
blow
Batman v Superman. I mean, they know that how they wanted that movie to be hit, like I said, $1 billion, and they didn't hit that. And they had so many goddamn complaints. I mean, they got what, like 20 something on Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah, 26 or something.
Yeah, it's really, really bad for a mainstream film like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we'll cover all that stuff. But on a closing note, is there anything else that you wanted to say about the movie?
Well, I remember when Dark Knight Rises came out, an old friend of mine had not actually seen any of the Batman movies until we went to the marathon they had at the Roxy. So that being said, if you haven't seen the Dark Knight trilogy, get off your ass and go see it, because it's fucking great. We should probably put fuck it. We're not putting a disclaimer in the fucking description for spoilers. These movies have been out forever. If you haven't seen them, you're a fucking cunt.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're just a newcomer,
if you're a youngin', if you're like 12 listening to this and you haven't seen these movies, go see them.
Regardless, these movies are a milestone in the comic book industry. As far as, like, I mean, a lot of people go, the best comic book film of all time is The Dark Knight. Though people will say that kind of shit because you go to Marvel, they're kind of more like sci-fi-ish, you know. And this series,
I think I have to agree with that. I think The Dark Knight probably is the best comic book film of all time.
Really?
As of now, yes.
Yeah,
that's what I think as of now.
Because it's not too far-fetched. It's pretty fucking grounded. It's straight up like, this is our world.
Okay, how about this? The best comic book film that stays true to its source material, in my opinion, is Watchmen, because it's literally a clone of the comic. But the best movie that is from a comic book universe ever made probably is Dark Knight.
Yeah.
We can probably debate and go, oh, what about Civil War? What about the first Iron Man? What about one of the X-Men movies? We can get into that, and maybe one of these days we'll have an entire talk about superhero movies as a whole, and we'll talk about the first movie that started it all, which was X-Men 2000.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but overall, go see these movies.
They're pretty fucking dope.
Yeah. And on that note, folks, this has been another episode of the Geek Mosh Pit podcast. We are your hosts, Anthony.
And I'm Jason.
And like, comment, subscribe, share this with your friends. Once again, thanks for listening.
Hopefully we'll be on iTunes soon if they actually fucking authorize this shit.
Yeah, we are in the process of getting on iTunes. But if that doesn't work, we are on SoundCloud. We're on YouTube. Check out our Facebook. And
check out the Facebooks and the internets and the web
internets and the webs
Gmails
and shit. All right, folks. Thanks for listening.
Peace.
Have a good night.